Hello everybody, and welcome to the LJL Officially Unofficial Podcast, episode 9. We've actually stayed somewhat consistent on a weekly basis. This is actually crazy. I'm very happy with this.
This is the last of the single digits.
This is. Oh god, it's the end of an era.
Turning 10 weeks old.
Oh, feels like yesterday.
Nearly there.
I am Alex, otherwise known as Lexi, go by MaskedSwan on the internet, and I am of course joined by the kooky Initia1ise who wanted to have a ponytail before this whole stream. He gets that, and I called him out on that.
Kooky implies I enjoy certain substances.
I mean, you can also be enjoying certain substances. I go for the innocent reason of it, but I mean, why not? And I am of course joined by the I can't actually say that word. Innovative. Nymaera, otherwise known as Alex Hapgood, the other Hapgood brother.
The other one. I'm not like the Hapgood brother. I'm the other Hapgood.
No,
that's about right.
I mean, you can be the other. I mean, do you want to be the kooky one?
Well, it's better than the cokey one.
Exactly.
My reputation is being slandered.
We're gonna have like Gordon Ramsay come in and we're gonna have Gordon Ramsay come in and do an expose on our coke-addling ways.
Oh,
sue you all for libel.
That was actually a really good episode of Kitchen Nightmares. I actually really enjoyed that.
I think it was very introspective and it was a very deep topic handled in a pretty good way.
Yes, true.
We're already way off topic, by the way, guys.
That's how I like it.
That's fine. That's fine. This podcast is all about the LJL, but when there are matches and stuff happening, we've kind of hit our limit for a few months. So expect this podcast to go real off the rails over the next few weeks, months even, as we won't have a lot of games. It feels like we were spoilt with all our games beforehand.
Oh, we've had some really good games as well.
So, quick thing to mention, we here over the LJL Officially Unofficial have no affiliation with Riot Games or Riot Japan. This is all done as a fan-made project. All of the views here are of our own, and again, do not present Riot in any way. It is purely our own thing. By the way, check out our social media. We are on all of the platforms, and we have a very active Discord server, which we are hoping to keep growing with new...
shitposts.
Yeah, new shitposts, but also just cool things that aren't on other servers or really out there in any form of degree, such as a way of accessing all of YouTube content that is released by the pro teams and the pros themselves, as well as a streaming feature, which has half killed me over the last few weeks. It should be fully working over the next week, and we've already got the Twitch bot. We're already doing the standard stuff, so that is a pretty good way to stay really in the loop of the LJL and what the pros are doing. And check out our podcast. It's on all of the streaming platforms out there. It's on Spotify through to everything else except SoundCloud, because like fuck, I'm paying for that. I will use this meme every single time.
The best thing about this is that you're asking them to check our podcast, but they are currently listening to it if they're hearing this.
Yeah, or they might be watching it, so it's fine. It's on YouTube.
It could be on listen to the podcast multiple times.
Boost our numbers.
That's exactly it.
Go home and boost our numbers.
And obviously, give us reviews on Apple Podcasts, because that helps, and that's what everyone else says to do. So I'm gonna say, can you do that for us, please? A 5-star rating would really help.
We'll answer your questions on the podcast if you do so.
And I'm just happy that I've remembered to start getting this spiel done now. I finally started doing it now. I've got this lovely intro. But as always, COVID-19 is real. Look after yourselves. Wash your hands. Take care of yourselves. Social isolate. Do what you need to do and to keep yourself, your family, and your friends safe.
Yeah, and make sure you're getting your information from the correct sources. So avoid... your Fox Newses and the like. Try and stick to proper medical attention. You know it's true.
He just called out Fox News.
Yeah, well, they already think they're getting sued. They already think they're getting sued. So that's my personal opinion, by the way. That's what I said earlier, right? This is all our personal opinions. That's why I used this intro at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Watch out for those chain messages being flown around saying that various things cure it. Don't listen to that stuff. Don't take any chances. Just keep yourself safe.
Keep your loops in your local government with the World Health Organization. Normally, a heavy point of contact for any form of information. Throughout this podcast, on a more uplifting note, we're going to be talking about round 2 of the LJL playoffs. That's going to be covering DFM versus Sengoku and V3 facing off against CGA and the outcomes of those matches. We'll then also be covering the round 3 matches that we have, that we have to look forward to. I'm not going to spoil that for anyone that hasn't or is just looking forward to going through with us through everything. So, going to be exciting. Looking forward to round 3. Then we're going to do a little bit of meta talk. We're not sure how much meta talk we're going to have. But,
to be honest, the thing with meta talk is that a lot of it today is probably going to be brought up within the context of the series. The reason meta talk is good for our other episodes because we're not directly talking about every game that's happened because we've cast them, but sometimes we've done like 16 games by the time we've done a podcast. We get to talk about things throughout the series.
Yeah. Plus a meta note on meta talk. There is something about how drafts evolve within a best of 5 that mean you want to talk about them within the context of a series and what chapter, what
and also the playoffs are. And the playoffs are on 1 patch as well. We're only staying on 10.5, which means we don't really talk about 10.6, which already happened. 10.7 notes dropped today as well. There's going to be another.
Again, no impact really, and for us, because sadly it has no bearing on our region from a competitive aspect.
Can I get a bit of clarification? That will be true for rounds 3 and 4
as
well?
Playoffs always happen on the same patch. So any tournament which is performed, any bracket stage will be done within the same patch. I believe that's universal within League of Legends.
Because obviously, currently, of course, rounds 3 and 4 will be happening in May, so there will be
a long time.
Number of patches that will happen.
That's just what we have. That's just what happens when you've got situations as they are. I mean, we can't really help it. So.
Yeah, I mean, granted, the LJL has only been pushed back a week. So it's not too bad for us. Like going to May is like, well, it was end of April to just push it back a week. It's not a huge deal, but it's still, we're on the same 10.5 patch, which is frustrating for us as content producers.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in another way because we get to see teams like evolve on that patch for a much longer time. They might solve it better, but it
does remind me of older days of League where sometimes you had a patch around for about And to end it off, obviously, we will go to small talk, talk about anything that's interesting us, and obviously answer your questions that you asked us within our Discord. We will, if you ask us, we'll probably answer it, especially if you do rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, that's it. This is how we bribe you.
That's a good way of doing
it. Questions and answers.
Maybe. Who knows? But with that all said, let's get into our first round and first match of round 2 of the playoffs. This is covering Detonation Focus Me facing off against Sengoku. Quick spoiler, DFM didn't win.
No, they did not.
That's only a very small part of that story, though.
Yeah,
it is.
So who wants to do the overview? Because there's a lot to unpack.
Sure. Sam, maybe one of you two should do it because obviously your predictions were very different.
So like I actually had a clean 3-0 for DFM. I had a lot of faith in their coaching staff and the way they would draft coming into this best of series. And what ended up turning out, it was a 3-2 to Sengoku Gaming in the end. And for me, that was largely off the back of a couple of very good level 1 plans as a team from Sengoku Gaming, kind of setting up lanes and setting up river control and kind of preventing Steel from doing what he wanted to do on things like Pantheon particularly well. And the other thing was, for the last 2 games, it was a bit of a draft advantage for Sengoku Gaming where they had picked up a Victor in the mid lane and they picked up Poke Varus for Yutori Mayashi in the bot lane, and effectively every time it would come to being around a dragon fight, Sengoku Gaming would have vision control and would be poking from beyond vision and seriously chunking out people like Seros, people like Steel, and quite squishy champions and punishing them for that, and it won them the victory in the end with a couple lucky dragon rolls and good objective secures.
Sure. So I think it's worth noting that none of us predicted Sengoku would win this.
No.
I thought it would be a 3-2 because kind of different reasons a couple of different reasons. I think the main one was that there's a well-documented phenomena within competitive anything really, where if you are at the top of your game and you're the leaders, it is easier to catch up to someone by following their example and learning from them than kind of innovate on your own, which is why it's so impressive when a team does stay at the top for so long, and why DFM, when they went on their massive win streak, finished with only 2 losses, was very impressive. So I thought that Sengoku might be able to learn from that and come out with maybe some shock games and try and take them. The games that they won, I don't necessarily think they were shocks. I think they were very prepared for the series, and DFM did not particularly adapt well. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I think DFM actually, I think their problems that we had been highlighting over, especially over week 6 and week 7, so over Super Week, when they picked up their second loss to V3, I think those problems had just been, if anything, versus Sengoku, who took their first win, and it was in very strong fashion, relatively speaking, because it wasn't like
that game.
We called out. Sorry, we called out DFM level 1s, right?
Let him finish.
And it's just a game where it's like Sengoku gave them the win. They looked good. They looked strong. There was maybe a narrative going here, which is what we started. We were like, well, maybe Sengoku could take them down. Obviously, go on to Super Week. DFM go 3-1, taking a loss against V3, and we pegged V3 to potentially be this other team coming through the standings, and we were like, maybe V3, they're on a hot streak. And then they placed against Sengoku, and in my eyes, while we all put DFM to win, and Sengoku got the win, I don't think any of us are super surprised in the grand scale of things, because Sengoku played a game against DFM that, frankly, just exploited their weaknesses, which had been made very obvious in week 6 and 7, and DFM hadn't fixed any of those. And arguably, any of the problems that they had over Super Week just went into playoffs, and then they just played the same as if it was week 7 or week 6.
I think it's very telling.
And Sengoku won.
Yeah, I think it's very telling that when Sengoku won, it looked like a Sengoku victory. They weren't particularly doing anything different, right? They were controlling.
It was Super Week Sengoku win.
Yeah, no,
it wasn't week 4. It wasn't week 4, week 3.
It was week 5 who won it. It wasn't week 6, was it? It was week 5, wasn't it, when they won?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying week 6, week 7 is DFM Super Week, and that's when
so V3 won in Super Week.
Yes.
Sengoku won in V5.
No, that's what he said.
Yeah, that's why I said.
Okay, I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So anyway, as I was saying, Sengoku, when they won, they looked. It was a typical Sengoku victory. They ended up having very good dragon control, strong lanes, good draft. They scaled well. They ended up using dragons as leverage to force DFM into fights that they didn't particularly want. They won those fights and they closed out the game. There were a couple of games where it didn't. I'm trying to remember if there was the one game where it didn't go as smoothly as that.
You could argue
game 4. DFM were very much in the lead for half of that.
Game 4. Yeah, game 4. But even then, that was the one where they ended up getting dragon advantage and stuff.
That was how they were
just like. Yeah, and then I also think that the other thing is that Steel looks very perturbed when his level 1 doesn't go right, and that's why we were talking about the level 1s in terms of Sengoku having the level 1 plans. It really disrupted things. So that actually didn't go well. So that's why Sengoku in a lot of games were trying. So particularly game 1, Blank walked in with a late invade.
That's the big one.
Threw off Pantheon on his level 1. Pantheon is an early clear jungler, like he likes to get things rolling early. He didn't manage to do that, fell behind, and then was just kind of a bit of a liability. Game 2, that switched around, so obviously DFM did have some back and forth, and it was the 3-2. Oh, yeah. It wasn't like DFM were not out of options. Game 3, Sengoku tried to do the same thing again. But they tried doing the level 1 disruption with the Karthus, who really likes to do his own thing at level 1, and it's just like, maybe I see what you're doing, and that's why you can kind of tell what Sengoku are prepared for. Maybe don't do it with a champion which suffers worse from the tactic that you're doing than the enemy guy does.
It was... Well, it was sort of like Steel then also... Ebby got a solo kill on Apperman shortly afterwards, on Renekton versus Ornn. Then Steel turned up really to kind of double down. Pyrian was on a Nocturne, and we'd seen Pyrian do this before, and kind of... This was in... That was when Sengoku Gaming turned their split around, was the last time they drafted the Nocturne, and Blank at that point was on an Elise, and he basically ran over the game on Elise. In fact, I think it might have been versus DFM.
It was, yeah. Utorimashi was on Ezreal, not Varus that game, but yeah.
Yeah, and aside from a clutch shield against a Lee Sin kick in the mid lane, Pyrian was okay, but wasn't anything special. Blank ran that game over. Pyrian's Nocturne in this made some very questionable dives in game 3. He sort of went in on a Ziggs 1v2, and the Ziggs had stopwatch, and he'd just seen it in inventory. Still went in and got solo killed. It was that kind of thing where you're going, not sure about the decision making there.
Oh, I mean, I would be honest. I think this was a. I mean, you have to. While these are the best of the best, even Faker has bad games, and I think.
Yeah.
I think, frankly, this was when Blank and Pyrian, that combo that is normally so resilient, just kind of fell apart for a game.
I think Game 1,
to give them some benefit of the doubt. I think that's what definitely happened. I think they both didn't show up to that game, which kind of
game 2 as well wasn't.
Game 2, Pyrion was fine, but then Blank was a non-factor. He kind of got out jungle by Steel. So Steel and Blank traded jungle pressure in a load of games.
They did.
Game 1 went the way of Blank. Game 2 and 3 went the way of Steel. Then for the last 2, it kind of went back to Blank. Pyrion had a really good first. Basically, Pyrion's game 3 was crap, but then his game, everything else was good.
Yeah, it was.
Say.
I would agree.
So I think that particularly his Victor games, his game 4 and 5, I was very impressed by his defensive Victor play. If anyone's been watching NA for the last week, obviously everything finished off in their regular split.
Yeah.
You could very much see the difference between a Victor that is punished early and a Victor that manages to survive effectively. And we saw Froggen have a game where he, in the last week, where he ended up kind of just surviving through to numerous items and just blowing up teams. And then we also saw Power Evil get like 3-man dived and then just never be a factor in the game because he was against a Zoe that could then abuse that matchup. Pyrion in his games versus Seros, who is a notable Syndra player, he played against Syndra both games. I don't think he was ever picked off by Syndra once. He didn't even have to blow a lot of summoners. He very much impressed me on defensive play.
I think he was once in game 5. That was it.
Oh yeah, there was one. Yeah, there was one.
But his defense. But I think also I will say this series was actually very, very close. There were like the first games 1 and 2 were in kind of an inversion, granted, but the rest, game 1 and 3 probably were kind of an inversion. But game 4 in particular could have gone either way. So DFM were up 2-1 in the series. They were looking to secure it. And a bit on what had happened was effectively DFM traded both Heralds for early Drakes for Sengoku Gaming, and then got a very serious serious leads in particularly top and mid going on. Pyrion had kind of been forced out of lane in an ugly TP level 3 or something, but he hadn't lost his life or anything, but he kind of had an awkward back. But then sort of come late game, effectively come mid to late, what happened was there was one dragon fight that didn't go the way of DFM, and Sengoku Gaming were on Soul Point, and it really screwed over how they wanted to play the map. And at that point, Initia1ise had got hit this point on the poke Varus, where every time they would become a setup or a congestion around dragon, DFM had very little way to get into a fight. Their only real engage was Anar, who was kind of, you just time out.
He's not reliable. He's just
he'd gone really heavy into a split push build between sort of I think he had Warmogs later on in the game, but then he sold it off for Blade of the Ruin King or something.
In game 4 he did, because he was doing well with Sapham in that game.
Yeah,
he ended that game with a 60 CS lead. He was doing well in the side lane. He just didn't end up having. I don't think he had like one time where he got like a 3-man ult, but he was very deep, and then he just died. That was the one where they jumped like. Really,
and basically they couldn't force the engage on the poke of Initia1ise and on the zone control of a Victor and a Thresh and all the rest of it. And by the time they get poked off, they just lose Drakes. And they try to turn it around in game 5 and contest the Drakes a bit heavier, but that really hurt Ebby in lane, and then he still wasn't finding the engages. And Steel and Seros got really poked out by the Victor.
Also, Blank was really strong in game 5 as well.
Yeah, he was. He got a couple good kills.
Blank game 4, I think, is actually super interesting because he played a very different game in between game 4 and game 5, but was just as I would argue he was very impactful in game 4.
I agree. Yeah.
Which is super interesting because like it's the kind of thing where you look at his scoreboard, you kind of go, well, but like the actual thing is the 4 assists he got basically set up his team to win that game.
Because it was only 5 kills apiece in that game.
Exactly right.
But remember in
also his smites were on point.
Yeah, they were. I can't remember him. He might have lost like one dragon at one point.
He lost a couple, but it was traded back and forth. And the fact is, they set up around objectives faster.
And again, like one thing which is so the big thing about best of 5s in terms of looking about how they obviously go on is you look for adaptation. If we look at
game 4, Sengoku got 6 dragons, DFM got 0.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then we look at so game 4 and 5 had the same mid lane 2v2 matchups. Also worth noting, both teams were on the same side choice for the entire series. It was DFM blue, Sengoku red.
Just keep them to their colors.
They're keeping their colors. That's it, man. They were just told, this one there is our team logo, so this is our side. Yeah.
This is our side. No, this makes sense. And then the other team's like, well, we're blue, and they're like, well, you got the blue side.
But effectively, both of these games, Blank went for a late game red buff invade, and then just ran across mid lane where Victor had already got priority at level 1, level 2, which you can do against Syndra, particularly if Syndra feels like she's a threat from an early game Olaf. to run across the other buff, get a 3 buff, and then kind of start off the game on good footing. Which meant that Steel kind of had to jungle from a slight disadvantage. It's not enough to break open the game. I think in game 4...
He did well in the top lane to do... He did well okay in the top lane to do something with it, but yeah,
he did. I think Ebby and Steel had an 80% first blood percentage in this series. Like 4 out of the 5 games they got first blood, which is high. It's pretty high. Also, Aquaman, bad. Don't do that.
I mean, he's giving those kills over, but his team's still winning. Like,
yeah, they are.
It's weird, right? It's situational. Things are happening. Aquaman also plays this game in a very peculiar way.
Oh, I also I think there were a couple of really telling games in terms of picks. I think for game 1, NT had a really good Morgana game that was banned for the rest of the series. Renekton, Aquaman had a good game in game 1, then it went over to Ebby in game 2. Ebby absolutely dumpstered Sengoku in game 2 and 3.
Yeah.
He was rocking out with his croc out, as they say.
I mean, he was arguably. It's a weird thing. If Sengoku kill Utapon, and Ebby wasn't a factor in that game, I don't actually think DFM win that one. Because it's a Syndra, right? Syndra's great at one target removal, and then...
Oh, Utapon was playing Syndra bot a couple of times.
Yeah, the game 3 Syndra bot was really good, actually. Outside of, like, they lost pressure a bit in lane, but come team fights, he was very good.
Oh, that comp was so disgusting, actually. So, DFM in game 3 played Ziggs and... Syndra, and they both had GLP.
Oh, so you had, like, couldn't get anywhere.
You had Minefield, 1 GLP, 2 GLP, Satchel, and like Utapon was really strong. I think it was like 4-1 at one point. Just couldn't get close. He was desperate.
Utapon didn't die that game. That's how insane it was.
Yeah, no one could get close to him. So anyway, but yeah, I think particularly in terms of adaptation, in the early kind of series, I was kind of like Renekton, looking pretty sharp. I know that Maple Street did a VOD review of the whole series. It's worth going checking that out. He has a lot.
It was really insightful.
It'll be in the show notes for those interested.
We'll link it out. It's good stuff.
Yeah, we'll put it in there. But yeah, so I think basically the Renekton, a lot of teams don't know how to abuse his weak points and then kind of let him get stupidly far ahead. And he did in all 3 games he was played. Then in game 4 and 5, Renekton was banned. Ebby went towards Gnar. And Gnar is just not a reliable backline diving champion.
No.
I think actually this is going to be relevant for the next series as well. But in terms of like, I think the teams which came out on top were the ones that found their reliable champions, either in terms of laning, team fighting, or skirmishing.
Yeah.
And basically towards the end of it, Sengoku found Victor and Varus and Aatrox as well. Actually, in fact, in the last 2, it's worth noting, guys, the last 2 games exactly mirror drafts. They ran back the same draft and they both went the way of Sengoku. That is like such a mental boom from DFM. I'm just like, they didn't find a way to crack open the Varus either as on hit or as poke in their series, and he just kind of ran over the game.
So can I bring up a point that you started to bring up, Nymaera, but it's kind of an elephant in the room that we've talked about a few times before, but now it's really bad for DFM, and this is really good for Sengoku now. Pick and ban phase, and now that Sengoku actually don't even care about Heimer.
That's true. Heimerdinger was not a game 1.
Big thing. And then they just started banning Set Pantheon, Renekton, because they're just like, Ebby's far more of a problem. Let's get rid of Steel's one trick. Fuck Ebby. And then they seem to just literally just roll over the draft and pick and ban phase.
A little bit. Like, I will say, because I don't think Seros champion picks this series, I don't think were too much of an issue. The Ornn is fine. The Echo
but it's what he imposes on the team.
The Ziggs was good. And his Syndra's great.
But he imposes
outside of the last game. Outside the last game, I think his Syndra was pretty good.
I'm actually going to agree with Lexi here, because I think that particularly because DFM are blue side, if you look at the teams that are in playoffs in round 2, so we've got DFM, Sengoku, V3's Crest, right? So the mid lane is a Seros, Pyrian, Ace, and Aria. Pyrian, Ace, and Aria, if you give them LeBlanc, they just end the game. They win.
Yeah, as well as Zoe.
Zoe is another one. So we saw in game 1, Pyrian played
Zoe was very good.
And Pyrian Zoe, he got priority early. And basically, I made a point as draft coming in. It's like, well, what happens if Steel gets hit by a combo before a dragon or something? We know that Sengoku play around dragons. What happens if he just like sits on vision and gets hit by a ball? That happens. They get onto Soul Point. They lose the game because they don't have dragon pressure and stuff like that.
I mean, granted, we can put a caveat there. Sirius decided to play Ornn against Zoe.
That's
fine.
Not the best matchup though. I mean, it's not a kill lane in theory for Zoe, but then Zoe can just roam and fuck up every other lane.
I mean, we've seen a lot of Ornns into Zoe,
which is what happened.
The problem I have is like you're playing Ornn Pantheon into Zoe, who has Spellbook, who can just
doesn't give a fuck.
You take Spellbook, you take one defensive summoner, and then like you can't kill the Zoe. Like she just runs away.
And I mean,
you need someone else.
She just runs.
It's that telling problem. They had to basically every game outside of one, I think. Yeah, outside of one, they had to pan LeBlanc, Senna, Zoe. That's telling when they're that scared of Yotorimashi Senna, which, to be fair, is very scary. So that's a legit ban, right? You ban that, and then in theory your mid laner can play those two champs, so you can trade, you can do handshakes, or you can ban one of them and then keep.
A lot of teams first pick Senna if they want to play it. Yeah. Like you're on blue side, you have that option.
And we know DFM do. Play
yeah, Yutapong and Gang do that like 4 days.
Like the thing is, they were.
So Gang plays Senna for fuck's sake.
What were they prioritizing? They first picked Nara a couple times, didn't they?
There was at least once or twice. No, wait, let me think.
Because I can't.
Syndra like 3 times in a row. I
mean, yeah, they did aggressively.
Syndra was second round. Syndra was second round for them.
Syndra was first picked a couple of times. I think Tom Kench might have been first picked.
If you're interested in watching this series, though, by the way, dear listeners, you can go over to our YouTube page, as we do actually have the full series up there. It was out legit a few hours after it had gone live and we had casted it. So if you're interested, we do have our stuff out there because I want our content to be viewed. Please watch our stuff. Please
watch the content.
Please.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But the pick and ban phase, like, if DFM are getting outdrafted now, because that's what I'm seeing it as. They played the same comp back to back. They were forced to ban the same, basically 5 picks. Whereas and Sengoku are just looking at that going, well, we won when we do this, so why would we change it? Then probably basically played the same game again, but far better for them because they're like, well, we did this one the first time. We won't make those mistakes and we'll win.
So,
I will say that I'll give DFM a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in game 5, if only because they were very close to winning game 4. They were very close to it. They were a long way ahead for a long point in that game.
So the gold lead does not beat the objective lead that Sengoku had.
Oh, but they had. But the thing is, they traded objectives.
They didn't. They never got a dragon. How can you say you're doing objective control if you don't get a dragon? They had double Elder Drake. DFM never got one. How?
Because early game they had traded objectives and they were trading turrets and herald for Drake. That's a normal trade to do. So that's kind of fine.
That's not control. That's handshakes. That's a big difference.
I think in game 4,
that's a valid strategy though.
So I think it's a little bit of both. I'm not disagreeing with either of you. I think that Ebby in game 4 had a sizable lead in the side lane. But then it's not the same as a Fiora split push, and it's not the same as
Gangplank.
Aatrox team. It's not the same as a Gangplank or an Aatrox team fight.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that
to finish.
Hang on.
Go on, finish. Yeah, it's fine.
So I think that when Ebby was on Renekton, he had like a surefire. Let's just make sure the ADC's on the
fly. I'd agree.
And it works with stuff against like any of these mid lanes which Pyrian are playing as well, really. And I feel like after the Renekton was gone, the Aatrox was super prioritized by Sengoku. It worked really well for them. They ended up having the more consistent team fighter in Afferman on the Aatrox. He just blew apart some of the backlines, particularly in... I'm trying to remember which game it was.
Yeah, it's weird. He, in a way, almost didn't have a huge impact in the early game, but come late game, he was always the most impactful thing, arguably, in a lot of team fights, right?
Afferman pulled his weight.
Yeah, he did well.
And I think that, honestly,
last game, particularly.
If you have to like first pick Syndra and then you don't have an answer to the Victor and the Varus, which they didn't in game 4 and 5, not really.
They thought they did. I think is the problem.
But thinking is not the same as actually having it. And I think like also saying that they almost won in game 4, I think that's a bit of results-based analysis because like the execution deficit on their team in terms of like how much more do you have to do as a team to actually win a fight is pretty harsh. Because you're against an Aatrox, you're against a Victor, you're against a Varus when you have Gnar, Syndra, Ezreal, which are all quite hard to execute champions compared to those other three, right? And you also have Elise versus Olaf, that falls off.
Yeah.
And also, like, NT's Thresh meant that his team had, like, a lantern to go get out of all sorts of hairy situations. And obviously, in the last 2 games, they were the same 2 comps.
So, like, I agree with you. I much prefer Sengoku's draft. I think my point is that DFM coming out of Game 4 went, okay, we nearly had that game. What went wrong? Well, we just didn't contest dragons early enough. Well, if we change that, then we can win. And then they tried to do that in Game 5 and got slapped because Ebby just didn't have the same advantages and they still got run over with Drakes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, Game 4 was, like, arguably the best case scenario for that comp. Arguably.
Right? So, I mean, that was the thing. Because you could... Well, exactly. So my point was, I understand what DFM was thinking. I just disagree with it.
I mean, my biggest problem, I think, hits on the fact that because I've literally loaded up the VODs off our YouTube because I was, like, more interested in the pick and ban phase. I will now send this over to both of you because I've done the raw one. I'm going to do snipping tools so we don't suddenly start freezing because that's what... Oh, no, it still freezes us. It doesn't matter. Okay, that's
unfortunate.
That's Game 5. I will also put this in the show notes for you, dear listeners.
I can just find it on the YouTube. I can do that if you want.
I'm just sending it now. I've already done the first one. I'm just having to send this through on our Facebook because I want to keep recording our pretty faces.
Yeah, because Discord is stupid. Yeah. Gotcha.
Well, no, I just want to see you. I want to be able to have the listeners still see your pretty faces. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got you.
And then let's copy this one, and I post this one.
Ian, do you want to? Can you bring up the pick and ban like on screen?
It's not going to be great for audio listeners, though, so maybe not.
That's fine.
I probably could, but it won't look clean.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't. No, that was just a whimsical thought. So, this is the things that we normally have to discuss.
So let's do it how we normally do our pick and ban phase, and Nymaera takes one side, Initia1ise takes the other, and let's do Game 4 pick and ban phase, how it went down. And
I don't have the... Let me find it. Okay.
I posted the links on the doopity doop.
I mean, the important thing to note are that, like, so... basically, like, DFM aren't even... Yeah. So Sengoku basically prioritized 2 really versatile champions in terms of team compositions right from the off. So like, there's the first pick Syndra.
So the first thing is, like, both teams locked in the same comps, as we know. And the thing that really confuses me is DFM decided to draft the exact same way. Which is the thing that really confuses me more than anything else. I don't think first pick Syndra makes any sense.
It does because they flexed it in Game 3. Remember, that's why they were using it as a flex pick, and they'd won with it doing that.
So you can say yes for Game 4, but you can't make that priority Game 5.
But that was what I was talking about earlier, right? Was that they felt that it was an execution flaw, not a comp.
But that's results-based orientated thinking, which is someone from a coach point of view, Kazu should be destroyed that he decided to do that. Like, that's terrible.
I mean, if they thought their only issue was Drake control, and that's maybe something they thought they could just fix in game pretty easily. And we're not
like, remember, we're not talking about we're not casting or like podcasting from the perspective of DFM, right? We're outsiders, and we can see like there is like the writing on the wall, and it's like okay, I mean, like whatever they've practiced, obviously they have confidence in it if they're gonna mirror pick it.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I think that if you're like first picking Syndra, I don't think that's awful. But what happens if you first pick Aatrox or Varus? One of those two. What happens then? Like, what happens then? You still like Pyrion does play Syndra, but like it's not like Seros can't go back to something like Karma or Heimerdinger, which he had played earlier in the split. There are other picks you can do.
It's that crazy thing, right? Imagine if they first pick Nika. Like, imagine if so DFM, if they first pick Aatrox, right? Pretty standard one, can't really counter pick him, really. Pretty even in a lot of matchups.
Not that Apperman would really have something.
But, like, but again, like, basically for me, the story of round 2 is reliability, and we'll get onto that in the next series as well. But...
yeah, I mean, I think there's also something to be said for... I think the reason probably is they know the Syndra's a flex pick, and they know Utapon and Seros play it pretty well. They probably were thinking, well, we want to save a counter pick for Ebby. The problem is, I don't think Ebby's counter pick of the Gnar was actually all that reliable.
It wasn't particularly. It was like it's a third pick Gnar. It's like you're securing yourself a counter pick, but like you have to go through. You could pick Felios there.
As crazy as it says, because it's solo queue, I'd almost prefer Aurelia.
Yeah.
Aurelia's got some weird team fighting issues.
Agreed. But I mean, so's Nah.
Well, that's what my issue was.
I don't know.
How many good outside of the 1 3-man Gnar ult that was a little bit out? There was like, I think I remember 2 good Gnar ults from it.
No, I don't remember any.
I remember one.
But that's my point, right? Like there were 2 passable Gnar ults, and if that's all you're getting out of that Gnar in a team fight scenario when you need to be the only engaged, practically outside of maybe a good Cocoon or a good Syndra stun, that's a problem. And we saw that in game, right? Was they decided in game 5, okay, we're going to contest Drakes more. And then they were like, okay, well, how on earth do we get on Sengoku Gaming? They don't. Victor throws down a gravity field. Pyrian and Yutori actually throw death lasers and piercing arrows from across the screen. And DFM just have to sit there and take it. I just wasn't sure about the Gnar being their only engage.
For me, like, I don't mind the Gnar if you have something like a Rumble mid in the back pocket. I don't mind that. I think that you basically don't... or support's also... Yeah, it's also another good way to do that, right? But then... Nico's a little bit different because like you basically need something with access to the backline, and Victor and Varus, if you just don't threaten them, they're just going to wreck your team. And that's what happened in both games.
I also
they have a thresh to keep them safe, and they just never.
I think if you want to do that, I think Gang should have played Braum with Ezreal, which is a legit good lane in my eyes as a support, and also I think
Braum would have been better.
It gives them more against the poke Varus. It also helps in the spot of engage.
At least... you need time catch for the Varus ult. I don't.
It's a hard one, right?
I don't mind that. I think like. I
guess time catch is better.
If you pick a Phelios in the first round instead of going for the Gnar, and then like Gangplank is available. You could pick Gangplank. That's fine. You want to.
Every plays a good Gangplank as well. Anyway,
it's fine in Aatrox. We've seen it multiple times across the playoffs.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Yeah, and Victor and Varus hate Gangplank because they have no dashes. They sit in that slow and feel miserable.
Imagine if you picked like Gangplank Rumble mid.
Yeah, that would be great.
Smiling knowingly, knowing what's coming up eventually.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think DFM's... I saw what they were doing. I disagree with it. They didn't have a way of getting onto the Varus really, and the Victor.
No, they had no backline access at the end of the day because they Sengoku were very good about controlling round objectives, not allowing themselves to get like massively flanked. Yeah. And eventually that
sweepers, man.
Yeah, and also like it just meant that Sengoku with the early Olaf and stuff like that could just like get up to a dragon advantage and then force DFM into team fights where they just couldn't choose the terrain and then lose.
I mean, Nymaera kind of just hinted at the whole reason, our player of the series by saying poke and a certain champion that Varus was kind of a key part of Sengoku's overall win. The LJL Officially Unofficial's player of this series is Yutori Muashi. Congratulations, sir. You played an extraordinary series. You basically didn't have a bad game across even 2 games where you lost, and you actually were definitely a game changer. Potentially, you could have swayed your tide if your team also had picked it up in the same sense.
And now I'm starting to question if he's actually had like he's had 1 or 2 duff moments, and he's had some okay games as opposed to great ones. I don't think Yutori Muashi this entire split has had a bad game. I've looked over the scoreboards. He hasn't had like a straight out and out bad game.
Which is crazy because we argued that potentially Blank Empyrean had a bad game in this series, which is crazy to say, right? His teammates in this series had a bad game, and Yutori Muashi is like, nah, how about 7 weeks and then we'll go into playoffs, I'm still going to be the best.
And then you look at like NC, who had like a great Morgana performance in game 1 and then had 2 bans against him in like game 2 and 4.
Well, every other game his Morgana was banned.
I think there was
every
one
game.
There was one where the ban was missed, but like
game 3. That was game
something like that. But like when your support is now drawing bans as well, reaching like some better periods of form. Yeah, no, this bot lane is pretty terrifying to the point where I'm actually like they might stack up okay internationally if they end up getting to their laning phase is pretty great.
When bot lane's pulling 2 bans basically every game, that's bad.
I mean, I will say Yutori Muashi has been on the international stage before and looked good. He's been to All Stars a couple times alongside people like Seros and Ebby, and he's looked pretty good out there. He's stood up against. This is when I go in group stage with people like Holy Phoenix, right? Who've been pretty good.
I remember that guy. Wow.
Right? I think there's some more drama around him possibly now. I don't know a lot about
whatever, but I remember him back
when he was quite good.
Yeah.
There's people like BRTT have been around when he was there. There's people like some other crazier LCL AD carries when they've been going a bit nuts. that kind of deal. You're not stacking up against
stuff.
and all the rest of it. There have been some good AD carries in those positions. So that is something to be said, and I think Initia1ise is a really consistent player with a lot of good champions under his belt at this point.
Hey, not to say that Initia1ise played badly, by the way.
No, you think he played
I feel like the draft was a little bit against him, and he didn't necessarily have to play making AD carries. But like Initia1ise is just like, how do you upset this guy? Legit, how?
You dive him and you hope for the best.
I mean, to be honest, it's really unfortunate for the rest of the league that he has gotten this Varus pick and it is this strong against the quote best team in the region. Arguably now that's Sengoku, because they took that win, and this is on a patch where not a huge amount of people were playing Varus in my eyes. There were few.
I think we're going to see it more.
But yeah, oh god, like for the rest of this series. And it'll be interesting. I'm super interested to see what other regions, because other regions, obviously their playoffs are now starting now. They're on a later patch than us. Varus hasn't been changed yet.
At all.
So is this the rise of potentially Poke Varus coming back?
We saw C9 player. We saw
AP Varus, actually.
I have my issues AP Varus.
Can we? Do you want to talk about that now or later?
No. This is not that. That's not a topic we're going to go on to. I just wanted to be like, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting because we have our other playoff match to start going into in a bit. Once for any closing thoughts on DFM versus Sengoku. I have got another topic about this. Once you have any closing thoughts related. Well, actually, I'll do that now.
Sure, go for it.
Because fuck it, it makes it easier. This means with Sengoku winning though, they're in the finals. They're locked. We have a Sengoku Gaming in the finals. They're a lock. They're always there. And they get side select. Interesting. This means DFM are our first team going into round 3. That means we will be seeing DFM in round 3. And I want our listeners to all remember that as we go through our next series and the team that they will be facing against, who, may I also say, we had the luxury of casting this game live.
No,
Pajama stream.
It was
the first 3 games.
Well, the full 5 series. This was a crazy game to frankly go through, but before we go fully onto that, I just want to hand it over to Nymaera and Initia1ise for any closing thoughts for Sengoku Gaming facing off against DFM and what the upset that it was, what this means for the rest of the league, and just
I think it is very scary that Sengoku feels so comfortable in the meta. I think that they found some champions which really work for them. I think coming out of this series, they are going to be hellish to draft against unless you have some extra kind of stuff to work with, particularly if you're looking at DFM. I think they adapted really well in the best of 5. I think they are now very scary, and actually, depending on which team comes to them in the finals, maybe even favorites for me actually. So we'll have to see when that comes around. But I am quietly confident with Sengoku, and we might see them on the international stage.
I think Sengoku Gaming nailed it when it came to the meta coming into playoffs, and the fact that they kind of identified particularly Varus and Victor as very strong picks that their players are also very good on is a real boon for them.
For so long for period.
Yeah.
And finally,
it's so much more agency than an Orianna right now, I think. Not that Ori's necessarily bad, but I do think I'd prefer the Victor right now. I think they nailed it. I think DFM weren't quite prepared for the Victor and the Varus to be quite so, well, the Varus particularly to be so powerful, and they drafted for themselves, and I don't think that panned out in the way they were hoping it would. And 2, specifically for DFM and Sengoku, congrats to Sengoku for some really solid level 1 plans, like worked out really well. Keep doing that. For DFM, you need to be more aware of your level 1 stuff, and I'm sure they will be. Like, they'll look back over those VODs and see it pretty cleanly, like, this screwed us really hard.
Yeah, okay.
But they just need to be a little bit better on the level 1s.
I mean, I think the one thing I'm gonna say is this wasn't lucky. This was well played by Sengoku.
Yeah, it was well prepared.
So, if anyone ever tries to come into our region and say, "Oh yeah, but Sengoku got lucky. They shouldn't be on international." No, they played well. Go watch that series. It's hype.
It's really good.
But we have V3 Esports facing off against Crest Gaming Act. I'm going to talk a little bit before my co-hosts chime in. I'm gonna do a little narrative, right?
Go wild.
Because I enjoy doing this. In game 1, V3 on blue side, CGA on red side. CGA, as Nymaera found out for us, basically never win on red side.
They had played 3 games the whole split and lost all 3.
Yeah, they're trash on red side, apparently. That was the narrative we started with.
Whoops.
CGA dominate
Yeah, whoops.
V3. And by domination nation, 3 kills for V3 Esports. 17 for CGA. Aria, Lord and Savior, 5-0-6. He's trying to count. He just got the 0 in the middle there because he didn't want to die any time. So it was just, that's what he did. Game 2. Same sides. 6 kills for V3. 22 to CGA.
Absolute stomp.
We had all predicted a V3 win. Problem is, we didn't expect it to go bad, and then we didn't expect it to go this bad.
I believe you thought it would be a 3-0 to
I had. Aria,
3-1. That was much better.
our Lord and Savior, 9-1-6. Yoshi, his apprentice or apostle or whomever, is 6-2-12 on J4.
That's a really good game.
Oh god, that's a J4 getting that kind of KDA. That's not right. That's not right. Gango also having incredible games across both of these. Everyone is. CGA are just dominating every lane, by the way. I'm just really harping on the church. Oh, but game 3. Game 3
is 2-0 down.
Or back against the wall. V3 are like, all right, guys, let's start. The game face on. Ace, 0. No. Better. 1-0-10 on a Syndra in the mid lane against Aria, who goes on his Silas, who is definitely who's applying for FaZe Clan for their hype reel. 0-2-5.
Yep.
Boogie.
Yeah,
Boogie, the man who says no to all of the gods and any king, any religion says no. Oh, Boogie's pissed. He lost on his Echo. He had a bad KDA on his Echo in game 2. He's pissed. He wants blood. Rek'Sai 6-2-4. Arguably carried the whole game on his back.
It was pretty great.
It was.
So then we go on to game 4. V3 have got a little bit of momentum. They promptly went 18-3 and basically did the reverse of what happened in game 2 to the game 1 to them, and we're like, no. Boogie on Elise, which made Initia1ise very happy, by the way.
Good stuff. Love that go.
Went 7-1-6.
There were a couple of times that game where
He allowed Paz to go 5-0-8. Had Ace go 2-0-8 on a Senna. Archer went 4-1-10.
I think he got like 140 souls that game.
He did. Yeah, he went absurd. Yeah. Like, okay.
Gango, his opposite, didn't get to play the game. Went 1-5-1 on Barrier, Flash, Aphelios.
I don't know. Actually, in the late game, he started looking scary.
They could never got a chance to do anything.
And the Lord and Savior Aria had 2 1-on-1 on Varus. It's bad, but you know what? Maybe we can rally behind this. It was a bad game, but we went 40 minutes, so maybe we can rally this up. If you're CGA, you're like, no, it's fine. We can rally this. We've seen reverse sweeps happen before. We just wanted to give them a chance. V3 Esports, 17 kills. Crest Gaming Act, 3. 24 minutes. It wasn't even close. V3 wanted it. Paz 5-0-7. A repeat, almost a repeat KDA of his original game. Boogie 4-1-7 on Rek'Sai. His Rek'Sai is arguably the most disgusting now in the league. Ace on Rumble. That's why we keep bringing up Rumble, by the way, because this game, Ace arguably had his best game, and it's kind of scary what this Rumble can do potentially for the rest of the team moving forward. Archer just doesn't want to die. Just had 1 death between the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Boogie did that in 1 game. That's insane how Archer is just like everywhere and nowhere. Reyna playing arguably his best games as well.
He was huge. Yeah.
This was a team so much to unpack. Gentlemen, as I've done the narrative, you get to do the analysis.
Okay. So, V3 pull off a reverse sweep. We talk about reverse sweeps in terms of like, I talked a little bit earlier about how adapting in a series is a well-documented phenomenon, and of course there is a mental aspect to that too, alongside just kind of like the whole like raw pick and ban play style part of it. And I think in games 1 and 2, V3 looked really uncomfortable in their early skirmishes.
Yeah, they did.
I think
Archer particularly.
I think
was it all acting?
I think it's a lot of V3 were not prepared for a double exhaust to come out of CGA.
No. It was all a bait. It was all a conspiracy theory. Fucking around it.
Break them properly.
They looked awful. Boogie was an... I think Nymaera said this to me and Initia1ise off cast, so I'm giving full credit to Nymaera here. It was in between our breaks, and it was after his Echo had just gone 1-4-4, and Nymaera went, this might be really bad. V3 can't beat double exhaust.
They play so aggressively. Both of these teams play in a similar style in terms of they fight over a lot of what seems to be mundane stuff, but they fight for angling in terms of map vision and stuff. Like it's a little bit multi-step process. They don't necessarily fight for the objective there and then. They fight so they can win the objective later if you get it.
Yeah, I get you.
But like because they're looking for any in on a fight, when exhaust is up and like you're playing shit like Jace who jumps in, Kai'Sa which jumps in, Echo, Nidalee, Aphelios another one too. Exhaust is so high value. Particularly when you're playing stuff which are backline carries like Azir, Kalista, and then Varus Misfortune. CGA got away with murder in a lot of those team fights where like, okay, right, there's like a huge amount of skill shots coming through and all this other stuff, but like the damage didn't register. And then like when you lose the early fights, you don't have the damage going to the next fight and the next fight, whatever. And then we finally saw V3 pick some stuff in Game 3, which was, what I said in the first series, more reliable. And it went a bit better for them.
A little bit is putting an understatement on it.
I mean, I also want to call out a couple players that basically coming into playoffs, we'd had a number of questions about Yoshi and Grendel, and their performances in the first 2 games were absolutely lit. Yoshi went 1-0-15, could not miss a Trundle Pillar, was doing disgusting things to everybody around him. Game 2, he went 6-2-12 on Jarvan, and we had that conversation, would find his way. Archer went 0-6-5 in that game. Az went 3-5-1, largely because Archer would get absolutely obliterated by the Jarvan. There was a Maokai top as well, and Misfortune like got fed. So it's like basically Aphelios would get caught and then deleted in an instant. But beyond that as well, behind the exhaust was, I think that Braum did a lot of work to shut out particularly the Echo and the Jade.
I agree.
There was once or twice where Gango was getting jumped on this Misfortune. She is immobile, only has a flash ready to get serious movement. I mean, you can use your strat. That's whatever. As I get my pop shields.
And you have Nimbus Cloak.
Yeah.
Right. So you have some options, what I'm saying, but it's not like Lucian Relentless Pursuit or whatever. You get that kind of actual mobility.
No one's playing Lucian.
Yeah, not really.
We're on 10.5. I think 10.5 is a great patch for Lucian, and we're just not seeing it, and I'm sad. But we're seeing Varus, so I'll take a new AD carry. I'll take it.
But I think for quintessentially for Game 2, when Crest Gaming were looking really good, it was things like Echo would throw down a parallel conversion. There's one moment, particularly in the bot lane, where they were playing with Misfortune backing on Vision. They were throwing down a parallel conversion, about to dive onto her, and they get her. She's on an inch of HP. She's hammer form E'd behind Braum's shield. The exhaust goes down. Echo cannot get the kill. It's turned around. They're blown up, and it's like, what more can Boogie do to try and get on the kill to get the kill onto this immobile Misfortune? And it was like everything they would try and do would miss out by inches. And by the time it hit about 10-15 minutes, it wasn't inches anymore. It was miles. And then you're kind of like, well, what on earth do we do now? And the answer was die in a horrible fashion.
They did a lot of that. I mean, to be honest, like V3 just looked very well, they just didn't have confidence. They weren't communicating effectively. I mean, Boogie had his probably 2 worst games of the LJL.
Yeah.
Which is...
Yeah, he did well. There was the Skarner game as well. It was not good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and his Trundle game.
Diana game, very first game of the split versus DFM. So he's had a couple dotted about, but he's finished off.
I mean, I would argue his Diana game was better than his Nidalee game.
I think his Nidalee was
His Nidalee was trash. I'm sorry, lads. His trash. Don't be nice to the guy. When they had a bad game, you can say they had a bad game.
Okay, if you're separating the player performance from the game state and stuff, I think it was okay.
It was okay.
But let's not dive into that too much, because I haven't watched the first game of the split for a while.
It was, yeah. I mean, the Diner wasn't that bad in the grand scale of things, but it was whatever. I mean, what's bigger here? The Church of Arya has fallen. No more Arya.
Big time.
Yeah, it's sad to lose him, but we had to lose one of Boogie or Arya in this effective. Well, it's not semi-final, but round 2. Arya had some really good games this series. His Silas in game 3, we've seen him do miracles on that pick. It didn't happen that game. There was a point where basically everyone was locked in the dragon pit, and he was like looking for an inroad. He missed like a crucial abscond of duck to get the chain on the win. He had to flash in. It meant that the extra damage wasn't there. Didn't get an extra kill. Damage was still available for V3.
I mean, the super interesting thing about all of that is Silas was banned for the first 2 games, right? From V3, right? Game 3, they unban him, do the support ban on rotation 2. Arya gets the Silas and then gets kind of fucked up on him. And then probably V3 are like, we don't have to ban it anymore. And then he doesn't play. He goes back to the Varus. It's super interesting to see that from him.
Okay. And we saw how important Varus was in DFM Sengoku.
Yeah.
In terms of like, DFM really didn't draft well to get on top of a Varus.
But Arya was taking it away from Gango.
He was in a lot of ways, but it also allowed them to flex. So I think that Gango, I think game 4.
Well, you can only flex if you actually abuse the flex ability. They didn't really do that. They just picked it and then were like, this is mid, you know it's mid, we know it's mid. I think one of you even said on cast that you know it's going mid, so...
Maybe. It might have been when they locked in the Aphelios earlier or something. I can't remember the draft stuff like that. I don't think Arya was bad at Varus. I think actually he looked very scary.
No. That's not a problem with being bad. It's just more like if you're...
Yeah.
If you've got a flex, actually use the idea of playing a flex as opposed to just playing 4 games in a row, basically, on one champ.
I think it was in game 4. Like, they picked up the Varus early. I'm like, okay, so you know you're playing against Senna Tom Kench. And actually, Varus is actually pretty good at abusing that lane.
100%.
And also, and you can pick, like, poke Varus bot lane with the Yuumi, which they also picked up, and you double poke them, and you're like, okay, Senna doesn't get to play the game. They didn't do that. It went mid. That game went super long, and Arya was poking out people around objectives, but, like, it just, like...
Couldn't get killed.
Didn't come to anything.
Yeah, never did the solo kill.
And also, like, basically for the last 3 games, Paz played something which could really fuck up a backline. He played 2 games of Aatrox, and then at the last game, oh my god, this game 5 composition from V3, I love it so much.
It was so good.
Let me spell it out for you. So basically, basically V3, I believe they first picked...
Oh, if you give me a split second, if you can fill out for a very split second, I can actually give it to you.
Yeah. So as a bit of context, like there was effectively currently LoL Esports match history isn't working as we're doing this. So it's like we're going to look at the pick order in there, but we can't currently because it's.
But anyway, so effectively, I can't remember what V3 first picked. I think it was the Aphelios, and then basically Crest Gaming responded with an Aatrox and probably the Varus as well. I think it was Aatrox Varus, and I was like, oh. I love this because Paz has had 2 really good games on the Aatrox just in terms of team fighting and getting people and all sort of stuff. Like he went 3-2 and 5 and did well against the GP he was up against.
Cool. There you go.
Yeah, because I wanted to call that out. Was that if I can call that out before you continue? Like that game 3, Paz put Nap on the GP in a bit of a nasty position. That GP had a horrible game versus the Aatrox.
Yeah, I think he did. And then also, let's have a look.
So, so Nymaera, please, by all means, do the pick and ban order.
Okay, so it's basically first pick Aphelios because Gango did look scary on that in game 4, so this is game 5 draft. Then CGA take away the Aatrox away from Paz, and I'm like, okay, I really like this. Paz looked very confident diving the backline, and then having the Varus flex pick in the pocket as well. V3 respond with Nautilus, which is a really good lane with Aphelios, and then they go back towards Boogie's Rek'Sai. And Boogie's Rek'Sai is, again, more reliable than stuff like Echo and Nidalee. That's why he picked it up in game 3 in the very first game that they kind of had to turn around in. And he's had some really good games on this pick. And then basically the last couple of picks are V3 pick for their solo laners, Rumble and GP. You know what we were saying about DFM and not being able to deal with stationary backlines of Victor and Varus and stuff? You are sat there with a Varus and a Misfortune, and the Braum's kind of there trying to help.
Well, you lock in the Misfortune.
You look in the Misfortune afterwards, you're like, okay, right, so that was a little bit weird.
There was some crispy AD carries those two games.
It's like Japanese love themselves some hot pots, but that's taking it a bit far, to be honest.
Can I just offer a question pick? Because I'm not sure about this, so I want both of your insights into this. So we know that they could play the Braum Varus bot lane, right? That they could if they wanted to. It's not the best lane by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a lane.
It's alright, yeah.
What about if Arya goes something like Echo here? Or Kiana?
So,
like a very mobile kind of flashy.
I actually think Lucian's really good.
Ooh, okay, sure. Again, another mobile.
Lucian, I think the thing about Lucian is that actually, if all of your players can play it, it's okay. I wouldn't play it in bot lane because actually, Aphelios Nautilus is a really strong lane. I think I would actually go Varus Braum in bot lane for that. I think I'd flex it bot. If you have a Lucian, you can flex it against GP, really good against GP. You can do it against Rumble, really good against Rumble in a lot of ways too. You have a Trundle, which is not great for setup, which is kind of sad, but like...
The Trundle pick was the worst pick in arguably in this draft from CGA.
There was only Nautilus to steal stats from,
and they banned out Sejuani and Jarvan, which have been Yoshi's go-to junglers besides that, so he kind of feels pressured to go.
And the Rek'Sai as well, he goes towards the Rek'Sai.
But they're banning Poogie's Lee Sin every game.
Well, there is a reason for that. Boogie's Lee Sin is so damn good. You can't giving that up would have been also giving up a Lee Sin versus a mobile AD carry. Like you are asking for pain.
True.
Sure. And then basically this game fell apart in a mid lane 2v2, and then team fights just went awfully for CGA. There's literally just legit no counterplay. You have Rek'Sai flash knockup, and then by the time you're out of that knockup animation, you've had three ticks of equalizer and a GPL as well, and it's like.
Nautilus depth charge on top of it, you don't get to move.
Aphelios flamethrower ult.
Yeah, there were some points where actually Gango had some really good Misfortune ults very briefly in the early game, which dissuaded some pot fights.
But he could never get anything out of it.
As soon as Leandri's was completed for Rumble, she died. It's like, remember back in Season 5 when Jhin was released? And people were picking Bard into Jhin, haha, we can cancel his ultimate. Then, SKT realized, well, what happens if we pick Rumble? He doesn't just get stasis, he just fucking dies. He sat there and was like, wait, why am I dead? And it's because Rumble is really, really good at being this, pseudo backline diver, because, his ult just does enough damage that... He does the same damage that an Aatrox does to a backline just with his ult.
Plus, you can early buy a Zhonya, so the Varus poke doesn't land as hard as you'd like.
Yeah, early Seekers is really good.
Yeah, and you drop an ult on top of a Varus and a Misfortune. They don't have an option unless maybe you've got a Thresh, and even then, you still take 2 or 3 ticks.
True. I think I want to kind of direct us in a slight way, because we're just kind of waffling on random topics.
A little bit.
Sure. What does this mean for V3, as they will be facing DFM in that series? V3 had a very uncomfortable start, but then were very much back to their old ways, and arguably is almost as if those 2 games didn't happen. They were back to their win-streaking ways in a way, because they were 3-0'd.
Depends how DFM prepare.
Yeah, and I agree. So I think I've got probably 2 things.
Sorry, were you going to say something else, Lexi?
I was, yeah.
Oh, sorry, man. Yeah.
And the thing that I'm most interested is V3 are tyrannical when it comes to the pick and ban phase. They can play anything and everything. They have been shown in almost every single lane outside of Paz. Paz is their only big problem. Every other player on their team has some of the widest champion pools in the league. Paz is the only one that has 4, but no one seems to care about that, and Ebby's only, I think, 1 better, so top laners are in a very degenerate state right now.
And he's picking high-value top laners either way, right?
He is. He's still very important.
Exactly. I mean...
What does that mean, though, for DFM, who are arguably the opposite of that and are all about one tricks? Do you see where I'm going with this and the question, the overview, and everything else?
I might contest a little bit, because I actually think that Ace...
Such a fanboy.
While Ace plays a lot of champions, there aren't that many he's genuinely superb on. His LeBlanc is absolutely that. His Syndra is very good. We've seen his Rumble be good.
His Zoe as well?
His Zoe's been very poor. He's had very bad damage numbers.
No, actually, okay, no. In fairness, his Zoe's not impressed me either. For me, the champions which have impressed me are I think that his Rumble's been really good, his Syndra's been really good, his LeBlanc's been really good. I think those are the three which I'd say, like, those are the things I definitely want to see him on. I'm just going to go see if there's anything else he's played this split, which typically...
But because his Zoe has had, like,
guarantee you, if you give him Zoe, he's going to destroy Syros. I'm 100% sure of that. I would bet money with you if it does it.
His Nocturne as well. We forgot his Nocturne's good.
Yeah,
okay, but like, yeah.
But that's in a very specific.
That's comp reliance, right?
I mean, in 2020 so far, he's 1 and 2 on Zoe. Like, it's whatever.
I guarantee you, if you had also 100%, if Ace and Seros had to play the Zoe mirror match, who's going to win that? Who would you bet money on? Who would you bet money on? The man that's played it or the man that's never played it?
I'm not, okay, I'm saying they're both bad Zoe players. They just don't play it.
Well, one of them plays it, one of them just refuses and just forces his team into bad bans.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know if DFM are going to stick with blue side because V3 have really preferred that as well. Also, again, worth noting, this series, again, all 5 games, teams stuck to the same side, V3 on blue.
Yeah, very peculiar. I don't know why teams keep doing that.
It's probably what they prepped for, and they just like don't want to rock the boat too much. Some teams are really confident when it comes to like throwing spanner in the works and stuff. I think that
internationally, that's a very important thing to be good at.
The mid lane effective champion pool in this series could be quite low for both mid laners.
Yeah.
I think that Seros has had a weak end to the split. I don't think anyone's contesting that now. I think he's had some troubled games. In their loss versus V3, he had just a terrible Galio performance.
It was not good.
He really struggled to have a clean team fight. You could see sometimes what he was trying to do, but he just got like...
Well, they were also having to first pick for him. How much priority are you giving to one player who's just not showing up?
In fairness, Syndra was a flex pick, and like he is a good Syndra player, and he wasn't a liability. So you could say it's a high value first pick, but then it's like actually when you could
wanted to save counter pick for Ebby, which I get.
But then it's like, I mean, if you're another team in that situation, you could just like not have to ban LeBlanc and then just first pick LeBlanc, which has been an instant win for like
almost every other team in the LJL.
LeBlanc's win percentage in the LJL has
pretty high, absolutely
nuts. Actually, let me go have a look at that.
While you find that, initialize.
Yes.
Right.
So I've got a couple issues. So what do you want to say?
Go ahead. No, you go ahead then.
I've got. So I think. So like, I kind of think the mid lane's a bit whatever. I don't think Ace is going to be one to punish Seros. I will say that. I don't think he's good enough to do that.
83% win rate.
Damn, son. But I
3.
But like, I will say, I think
blue side DFM banning LeBlanc is fucking insane, dude.
But I will say, I think Paz, outside of his core, like his Ornn and Mordekaiser over the split have been very meh. I think Ebby could get on top of him, and he has done that before. And the second thing is actually, Archer looked really uncomfortable for half of this series.
Yeah,
really uncomfortable. And
but then he turned it on.
Yeah, he did. But I also will say, but then I also think
across 3 games, died twice.
No, but the last part. But I was it was pretty good. But I will also say I think Gango is a little bit more volatile of an AD carry player, and I also think that Grendel, while he looked really good on the Braum largely, he got a little bit more exposed in games 2, 3, and 4.
I agree with that. No, I think Grendel played really well this series.
Okay. His Yumi was a bit.
I wanna know how much equity are you both putting into the first 2 games of the series versus the last 3 games of the series?
I think there is some equity put in there.
Because like it's really interesting because V3 basically did 2 dominant performances versus CGA. Game 3 it's a different story, but game 2 and game 3 were just very dominant. Game 5 and game 4. Game 5 specifically, obviously, was very, very dominant.
It was very good.
Yeah, I guess game 3 was actually a very quick game, so you could argue maybe game 4 was their least dominant one.
I do have issues potentially with. I think Archer could be exposed, and especially versus Gang and Utapon, who have been very good. That could be a point of pressure. And I'm not sure about. I think Paz can be a little bit. You can potentially force him onto a matchup he's not very happy with.
Okay, so I think game 1, I'm willing to give Archer a pass because V3 had a level 1 event. V3 had a level 1 invade versus CGA when CGA has, like, you have a Nidalee level 1 doesn't really do much, and you're against a Braum. And
it was a really bad invade. I remember that.
It's also like, why would you invade a Trundle? Like,
The Braum is the main thing. Braum is the strongest level 1 champion in the game.
So dumb.
Between him and him, Nautilus, Morgana, those are like the triumvirate of really good level 1 champions.
Blitzcrank has a weird stuff he can do.
He
Pike as well can be, but it's weird.
Pike can have like the 5-man E, but you never start that.
No, exactly, right?
Yeah, like Braum is just like ridiculously strong.
Support.
Well. Yeah, Halo Blaze Callisto can stack it up so quickly and stuff like that.
True.
And then it's like, okay, so your jungler burned Flash and died. And then you have to play knowing that your side of the map is absolutely screwed. So I'm happy to, and then it's also against a really strong lane in Callisto Braum, right? There's very little.
And also sadly, Reyna picks set support, which in most scenarios is not a bad place to be. Just really bad when you know your lane's fucked already.
And then again, I seem to remember in game 2 there was a level 1 shenanigans as well, where Echo was forced off his red buff. I seem to remember that. And then Yoshi got really far ahead. So like, I think a lot of it was map pressure too, in terms of actually V3 not playing well against a weak side, playing well around a weak side bot lane.
Sure.
So I think Archer didn't play well. He didn't. Don't get me wrong. I think he wasn't put in the place to succeed in the first 2 games.
No, that's true. But that my point being, I wonder whether that could be exploited.
Game 3, Archer looked really good in lane on the center with Tom Kench. He looked. Oh, no, it was game 4. Game 3, he was on Aphelios with Nautilus. That was alright. Yeah, he played some of those team fights really well.
I mean, he played 3 Aphelios games in this series.
Yeah, and then like the last game he played really. Yeah, no, I think Archer was fine. I think Yutapon and Gang are not the most aggressive 2v2 bot lane, particularly compared to
the last couple of weeks. They've been very much on the edge. They've pushed towards the edge to give Ebby crazy lanes in the top, or attempt to give Ebby crazy lanes, I guess.
So let's do duo matchups, right? So Ebby and Steel versus Paz and Boogie. That's pretty 50-50 for me, because Boogie's insane, and Ebby's kind of insane. Steel is pretty hot and cold at the moment. Paz is, if he shows up, he's absurd, but if he doesn't show up, he can be pretty unimpactful.
I think that's going to be more even than people think.
That's why I'm 50-50.
Yeah, I think that if V3 come in and absolutely screw over Steel's level 1, I think that Ebby's going to win an isolated 1v1. Still, I think that Paz has been good. Although the last time we saw them play off, it was really fun.
Yeah, it was.
Both top laners had like 11 kills, and
they were just trying to fight for the sake of it at that point.
What do you lads think about this, by the way? Because obviously Sengoku Gaming's level 1s are really clean.
Yeah.
V3's attempted level 1s were not. They were like very bad. But do you remember that? So. How easy do you think it will be for them to actually screw over DFM's level 1s, especially if they've kind of got that more on their radar now anyway?
I also think that I like V3's team comps in the games they won a lot, and I think they've found the champions again which work for them. I think that if they keep playing Rumble mid, then
that's the thing. Yeah.
If they keep playing Rumble mid, they're gonna really annoy DFM because like they play a lot of immobile backliners too.
So let's just figure out end my little thing. Steel and Seros facing off against Boogie and Ace.
Aces look really good this playoffs. Seros, he didn't have a bad series.
It was the last game. The last game was a bit meh. That was about it.
Yeah, the last game was meh. He got caught out a lot. His Ziggs game was disgusting. His Echo was good. His Ornn was fine. It was good in team fights. And then his Syndra in both the games was he wasn't completely 100% on his damage.
I'm actually going to be like, his Echo was pretty bad actually in team fights. He was almost unimpactful. He was really good in the solo part and the kind of ganking part. The early game, he was actually really good. Come to mid game and late game, the rest of his team just kind of won the game.
I remember even back to finals in their last game, last split when Seros played Echo.
Was it the Echo then?
Yeah, it was the last game.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
Against the Talia. And I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, sure, like you're playing Echo and it's flashy, and you got ahead because your team got ahead. A lot of that wasn't necessarily due to your own efforts, I don't think. I think his Echo means he has a lot of mobility, and it's his one high mobility champion he plays.
True.
That can be good.
Yeah.
He's not as good as Aria on Echo, and not as good as Ace on Echo.
He plays for lane less, though, I think. So, like, I kind of agree. What I will say is
I disagree with that. I don't think he skirmishes particularly heavily on Echo.
No, because that's not what I'm saying. Skirmish. I think what he does is roam really hard to top lane.
I'm just gonna stroke the flames here. Keep going. This is great content.
So like, I think he left lane like possibly 4 times in 10 minutes, very in quite quick succession. Oh, have I come?
Yeah, your video.
Oh, you're back.
That's pretty weird.
Well, like, I mean, so put it this way: in his Echo game versus Pyrian, he ended the game 70 CS down.
Okay,
like, Pyrion played lane really well versus him, even though Echo can abuse Syndra, and you've got Pantheon versus Jarvan as well, and that matchup got really far ahead. Pyrion ended 1-1-1. In a game where you are winning as an Echo with a Pantheon jungle, you should, like, crap on that Syndra if you're really confident in that matchup.
Pyrion dies once, and I remember you complimenting him at the end of the series, end of that game in the post part, and you were like, "Yeah, but he only died once."
Yeah, he
so
did.
he
and
was.
he had some really good scat of the weeks to stop the parallel convergences come in.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
I think that. Yeah.
I just want to quickly go over that. So we're thinking that potentially Ace and Boogie are the more favored mid lane duo.
I think on the current form they're in, yes, for me.
For you?
Yeah. I think I agree. I think it will also depend on what Ace gets on, because if he's on a Jace, I don't care.
Don't pick Jace. If Ace picks Jace,
he will, because he will though.
Well, because he just destroyed on Syndra a bunch of games and then played his Rumble and then got basically the biggest round of applause for it. So
yeah.
Mate,
but,
who knows?
I think, because I could also see DFM taking away the Syndra again because it's a flex for them and it's one of Ace's better champions.
But then actually Rumble's pretty good into that too.
Nah, exactly. So that could be an interesting thing.
B3 can just ban the Syndra and not feel that sad about it.
Would you? Well,
as well.
What do you think about? Do you think Seros would play a Rumble?
He's not played it before.
He's never played it
before.
That's
not. But then again, neither of that many mids until this split. Outside of 1 or 2.
That's true. No, that is true. Yeah.
The problem is, I still want him to just start playing LeBlanc and Zoe first before before he starts playing Rumble. For fuck's sake, he needs.
He plays a particular kinds of champions. Is the thing.
But that's now really.
Yeah, the only champion who's picked up this split is Cassiopeia. But that's one which, and that's the champion I think he's looked the worst on, apart from Galio.
I think the problem for me with Syros is he was my player of the week 1, right? Like I was outright.
The draft.
Yeah. Problem is, every other team now is at a point, and I think this is just an interesting narrative point for the LJL. We predicted this league to be potentially its strongest ever. I would say it probably is its strongest ever because DFM have had to fight, and they've taken losses now, and now they're not even in the finals.
Our top 4 is pretty good. That's not yet.
Exactly. They're not guaranteed finals. Only Sengoku is, and that was not in any of. Well, actually, Nymaera did call that all the way back in.
I said they were going to win.
Episode 1. Probably not the way you're expecting any of this to go down, but we also thought the Hawks would still be here. So, hey ho, my predictions. God, I'm like over like fucking everything in this point now. I think my biggest problem is Syros' just champion pool is just hurting DFM more than assisting.
If they're gonna go blue side, it definitely is, because there are so many there are some good first pick mid laners, and it's not even like Syros has got champions which don't have an answer to them now because he's not going towards like the Heimerdinger and the Karma. Even if he did go towards the Karma, I think there are picks which just kind of out. I think Karma's good into picks which are really aggressive, like LeBlanc and stuff. I think you can nullify that.
Yeah.
But when you're playing against like Victor, Rumble, Syndra, like they just kind of do stuff through you. Like, what does Karma even do to those lanes? Like, occasionally you get pushed, but you don't win 2v2.
I mean, granted, if Ace just picks Rumble against a Karma, he's just gonna kill her over and over and over and over and over.
Well, I mean, will you get through the shield on that? I don't know.
I mean, I think with a Rek'Sai or a J4 or any form of assistance from a jungler, Echo, it's fucking dead.
Karma's strong in lane, but Rumble can trade pretty well there. Karma's not awful into
Nautilus coming up to just gank.
Yeah, because I would say Karma versus Rumble in teamfights is quite good with a mobile AD
Karma
carry.
Just in terms of like putting the AoE shield, which effectively gives you like an extra person and a half health bar across 5 members. That's not bad for nullifying the equalizer, but then like if there's other stuff like a GPL as well.
Yeah, if there's anything else happening, that's assuming nothing else in the team fight's happening, right?
Yeah.
So could we talk?
Sorry, Karen.
So what are you thinking in terms of like, because obviously we're talking about like first pick mid laners. How many people across the world are doing that? Because I'm seeing much more first pick top. I feel like.
No, I agree. I think that set has been banned permanently for a reason. I think if set in place right now is 6 and 2, I think that's how it is.
I think so.
And DFM are really adamant on giving Ebby a counter pick.
We are in a weird spot though because of obviously
unless sets up, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and we are in a weird spot because obviously patch notes and everything else. So other regions are on like 10.6 at the moment, and we're still stuck on 10.5. But I mean, set is just as strong on 10.5. Actually, arguably he's stronger on 10.5 than 10.6 if I remember rightly.
Blade of Ranking.
Yeah, Blade of Ranking happened. Yeah.
Oof. Yeah,
true. Because like he had some.
That's why we're seeing. Oh no, we're not. We're seeing Poke Varus. Fuck it, whatever.
No, so Blade the Ring can go buff for melees.
Yeah.
So
Oh, right, yeah.
I'm seeing Aurelia Blade, Set with Blade, Renekton with Blade.
I guess that's why. Do we see does Aatrox do it?
No, it doesn't work on casters really.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, okay, but you can see Triforce Aatrox, because if you get above a certain attack speed threshold, you can actually auto cancel his Q.
So
really,
that's kind of that's obnoxious.
It's a lot of damage.
Let's talk about the last duo before we go on to our full predictions for this, because we're already starting to do this. That's why I'm trying to lead us into our round 3 predictions and trying to lead this. Archer and Reyna facing off against Yutapon and Gang.
Yutapon and Gang.
Yeah, see, I'm leaning that way. I'm leaning. I'm not there. I'm leaning.
I think that if Archer and Reyna leave lane in a decent state, their team does well. I think in the isolated TV... you know what? I'm actually going to give it to Archer and Reyna.
Okay.
Actually,
because we've seen them get really put in the dumpster 1 or 2 times as well.
But
and Archer's so uncertain about. I was really not impressed with the first 2 games from him.
No, I agree, but that's also the map state wasn't good, and
he wasn't even being. They weren't even being ganks. They just got put in.
But then that was a situation, we already talked about that with the Nidalee obviously getting killed early, so you have to kind of just give that lane a thing. Also, set support is good when you're even. Yeah, when you're even or ahead, but he was behind so far for about the first 5-6 minutes.
The way you beat teams which like something like a Braum Kalista is like you have to flash onto them and force really aggressive 2v2 plays. If you lose the flash on the set, and then also like your jungler's far behind, and also it's still a strong lane with like a Halo Blade, AD carry with a Braum. It doesn't help that it's Kalista as well, because she gets to hop around while she's stacking up the casted plays. That was pretty nasty. I just don't think that Gang and Yutapon are aggressive 2v2, and I think that is going to only benefit Archer and Reyna.
So I like using math to kind of describe how I'm feeling. So I'm 60% Yutapon Gang, 40% Archer and Reyna. Like I think Yutapon and Gang have a slight I feel like they're slightly favored in the matchup. The problem is there are also worlds where V3 just hit the 40% 3 times in a row. Kind of beat Yutapon and Gang. They're not typically people who die a lot in lane when they do lose their lane. But the problem is if Archer and Reyna get slightly ahead and the rest of V3
is unlocked.
Yeah, that's it. It's over. And the rest of the team normally don't int. Normally. Yeah. It's rare for Boogie to int.
And I will say that, actually, I'm not sure I agree with Gang and Yutapon not being aggressive. I think they play multiple styles. When they've been going towards the Tahm Kench and the Braum, sure. But actually, we've also seen them go super aggro on things like Aphelios Nautilus before. Sometimes they're detriment, but they've definitely done it.
I think the reason they're not so aggressive is...
And Ezreal Karma as well.
Ezreal Karma is mainly against Senna Tahm Kench, really. Other lanes can trade back against that, alright. It's mainly against the Senna Tahm Kench because they have less tools available to them. I think the reason I think that they're not as aggressive is because Lucian hasn't been bot lane this split, and I think that Yutapon was really a Lucian player. Let's be honest.
Kai'Sa there too.
But Kai'Sa is not really a lane dominant pick in a lot of ways.
She's not.
Well, she was last season because of her numbers. Her and Xayah were just really, really strong. I think that she's coming back. I think that helps, and Kai'Sa Nautilus might make a return. Archer, in fact, played the Kai'Sa in that series. Gango played it a couple of times as well in the
that's true.
Finals.
He did. One was a win, one was a loss.
Yeah, there was the one against the Cannon, and then one, where he really popped off. I think that so I rated Archer really highly. I had him in my top 10. I think that Reyna has been really good though. His Thrash has been really good. His Tahm Kench has been really good when they've been playing that as well. I think that if Reyna makes it through laning phase and has like the run on the map, he's been really good. I think actually Gang was a little bit quiet in their series.
I'm
against Sengoku.
Gonna make
Reyna's had to go back over his stuff.
I'm gonna make a really strong statement to just really add to the fact of Yutapon's big problem. I'm pretty confident that if V3 just heavy ban Ezreal, they're always gonna have priority bot lane.
I don't know, because Yutapon plays the Aphelios. He played the Syndra for crying out loud.
The problem is these are all champs that they can pick away. They can pick those very comfortably. They're not, and I don't think DFM, from watching their drafts, they particularly let Yutapon and Gang get priority picks heavily. They normally focus out for the solo lanes.
They first pick.
Yeah, well, they focus for Ebby as well.
If Aphelios is available, they first pick it. Yeah, that's the only one.
But the problem,
I did want
with that, I don't think 10.5 Aphelios is as overpowered as Varus and MF and Senna as much as it is. And
Aphelios is really hard to abuse in lane. Maple Street mentioned this in his
True.
VOD video as well. Mentioned that before. So that's why we saw on hit Varus played into Aphelios when he was picked in the DFM Sengoku game.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Went for it. So it's like, well, you can't poke out Aphelios because he'll just roll a Severum and then just like heal up and have it just doesn't matter. So you end up just trying to like do the on hit Varus, become kind of like almost a better version of him right now. I think Varus is kind of a better version of a lot of other AD carries. Because like your role is
what a weird world we live in.
Yeah. Like you have better poke than him. Your zone control is less because the crescendum turrets are still.
So the Sentinels are dumb.
How many Varuses did we see in Super Week?
A lot.
Did we? I can't remember. That's why I'm asking.
Actually, no, not that much in the last.
Not that many.
Like week 6, week 7, because that was 10.5. That was 10.5. I'm pretty sure for week 6 and week 7.
5.
5 Varuses across
6. No, there's 6 in playoffs. So 6.
I just want to know.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've seen 13 Varuses in playoffs so far.
No, I didn't.
13?
No,
that was for me.
I ask a completely different question. I get the answer I'm not interested in. I'm doing it now. You guys go nuts.
Okay.
I'm gonna do this.
Sure. So I think.
Can I raise a question before we go that way? Just in terms of I see if I can remember what I was going to say. Like specifically when it comes to oh shoot, I forgot. Never mind. Okay, well, what I was going to talk about, I was just saying, like, do you think there is something to
10.4.
the way
Playoffs was on 10. Super Week was on 10.4. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Except Varus didn't still get changed, but it doesn't matter.
It's more about Senna and Aphelios, the priority.
Yeah, because that's what I care more about in the grand scale of things. Is 10.4 and 10.5 changes between those and.
Yeah.
Do you think it's more about DFM like largely prioritizing Steel being around top side and therefore DFM spot lane kind of, at least over the playoffs, being a little bit more defensive because they know they're playing weak side? And if we saw the Magic draft more towards putting Archer and Reyna down, it would be a very different story.
I'd like to see them actually pick to try and carry a game, frankly.
I mean, they have done before quite a lot.
I think if they do draft that way, that's definitely a way to do it. Yeah. Also, like, I was saying about Rumble Mid and all that stuff in terms of like, well, did DFM have an answer to it? Remember the Hawks played that into them, and then he just played Ziggs and just like
wrecked him.
Pushed in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they do have that answer. I do think that Ziggs is not the perfect answer to Rumble.
No, I agree. You can get punished in TVT.
If you let a Rek'Sai get picked into a Ziggs, you are committing mid lane suicide.
And Ace is very happy to pick
his Rek'Sai as well.
Yeah, Boogie goes, I'll play a Rek'Sai, you can pick your Rumble now, it's fine. If he picks Ziggs, we just kill him 10 times and you win the game and I win the game.
Then?
I think they have to.
But then, like, there's so many things is a must ban from V3.
I think you ban the. I think you have to ban the Lee Sin as well. I think you have to ban Rek'Sai.
Probably. I mean,
like you can't.
Steel
ban both.
does play Lee Sin, which is something. Yeah, but they want to first pick it.
So they're gonna first round a jungler.
So see, we can actually go one better. We can look at the bans from CGA and see what common pick themes were. So common themes were Lee Sin, Senna, Rek'Sai, Set, Echo, and Nautilus. 6 champions. 5 of them were on a kind of rotation.
Nocturne too, but that's not.
Pulled 3 bans for 5. All 5 games was actually banned from CGA. So actually, 7 champions.
Ace plays a good Nocturne.
So 7 champions are current must bans. For
that's what I thought.
You can argue
for CGA,
but then you could also add Rumble into that. You potentially, if for whatever reason you really want to force Ziggs, you could arguably do that. You could also argue Senna, in a way, is very scary from Ace. You could also argue the Elise, very scary.
And also, V3 banned LeBlanc every game. They're not going to do that versus DFM. Do you let Ace have LeBlanc?
Yeah, they don't give a fuck about that. They can also stop on banning Silas as well.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
And they know Sengoku were like, you don't have to worry about Heimer.
But you've also got to think about, if you look over what Sengoku are banning against DFM, it's like, we don't want to give Steel Elise, we cannot give Ebby Set. Like, that makes it Pantheon as well was a ban.
But this is not Blank, this is
that's true.
Boogie.
Yeah. Oh no, I think Blank did well that series.
No, don't get me wrong, 100%. But would you rather would you rather give Boogie Elise or Boogie Pantheon?
My point being that I think Steel, at least outside of the, I think Boogie's got the Nidalee and the Echo, which are kind of unique to him.
That's true.
Steel's got the Kiana he's pulled out once or twice. Yeah. So they actually share quite a lot of a champion pool. I wonder whether they'd be okay just trading, say, a Lee Sin and a Rek'Sai or an Elise.
But there's no way DFM
they'd both be pretty happy on those picks.
So like DFM's ban phase, we can assume is obviously going to have to be LeBlanc and Zoe, right? Because that's what they did.
I don't know if you ban Zoe.
Okay, so they can give that up. They have to still keep banning the Senna because that was made very obvious. If you give Archer,
actually plays a very good. Oh, sorry.
DFM are banning Senna on blue side. That's pretty telling because they don't want to first pick it.
Yeah, which also means that Archer basically knows he's never getting Senna. Well, and then also Crest Gaming Act decided to give him one chance on Senna, he destroys on it. So
I also wonder if you want. I wonder if you want to ban Aatrox. Actually, Paz has looked really good on that.
Ban the Aatrox. Are you going to keep banning the Lee Sin though? And if you let him first pick the Lee Sin, he's just going to go mental.
And this is my problem. There are too many bans which DFM have to consider.
Because they have to force this LeBlanc bullshit, and it's so fucking bad, dude. Siros, please.
Because I think genuinely right now, DFM and the teams they're playing against, literally there's like an overlap of like 1 or 2 bans where like they really want to save a couple of bans for those picks, and LeBlanc is forcing that out. And like when you're suddenly dealing with like 2 consistent laners into team fighters, that is a problem. So, like if you're dealing with like a Rek'Sai, like either an Elise Aatrox top side from V3 or like a Senna in the bot lane or a Syndra, like you're giving V3 a lot of comfort, and remember they beat DFM by playing comfort as well. You know, they just rolled them over.
Do you think Ace has a counter to the Heimerdinger though?
Probably.
I think that Syndra works into Heimerdinger pretty well. Because
maybe.
you can pick up his turrets and wave play them really well.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's fucking disrespect.
DFM could pick the Syndra and then flex it bot and still pick up the Heimerdinger.
But then if you're picking like
Syndra, god, Syndra Heimer, you're fucked because Gangplank don't give a fuck.
Gangplank Rumble comes in. So
yeah.
You have to ban away certain things.
Yeah.
And also if they pick something like a Senna as well, that's another AoE ultimate to lay down.
Yeah.
So the one thing is Boogie has not played Jarvan. That's the one thing. He doesn't play that champion. He doesn't like to give up the early pressure.
But you can also see him probably playing it as well, right? He probably has it in his back pocket because he probably can play it on solo queue and it'll probably be fine, and it's still Boogie, so
he definitely has the mechanical ability because Jarvan's a mechanic, so like
it's more of a team thing. I have to wonder about.
I think it's also about the early pressure. Right?
He can also just play Gragas.
His Gragas is also really good. Gragas is really
good.
Steel
plays that well as well. That's the thing.
Yeah. But then like you have to play an AD mid normally. Well, no, not necessarily.
True.
Yeah. That's a good point. Where was the Gragas rather than the elite? Like, where was the Gragas versus the Victor and Varus? The DFM.
Gragas is not great into Olaf.
That's true. But neither is Elise. Elise is atrocious post-it.
No, Elise is okay into Olaf, and
Kobe was spent literally 20 minutes last night saying how bad Elise is into Olaf.
Yeah, but like Elise has more opportunities to blow open the early game, so Olaf is irrelevant.
Sure,
Gragas has one chance. Let's be honest. He does the shotgun gank, and then he's done for like 5 minutes.
Eminem intensifies.
Olaf has like his first item. He's done. He's got up to level 6. He's probably taken the first dragon because fuck Olaf, man.
Early dragon take is so obnoxious.
All that kind of stuff.
Gentlemen, if I may, it's time to rip off that band-aid. I don't want any reasons. I don't want extra bullshit sentences. Nymaera, who's winning this?
V3 3-1.
All right. Initia1ise, who's winning this?
DFM 3-1.
MaskedSwan, who's winning this? V3 3-2.
Okay, I can see that.
It depends so much on how these teams prep, because DFM got slapped. Don't get me wrong. Like to their pride, right? It was a close series in a lot of ways, but their pride has been slapped by that. Pretty hard. Whereas V3 also lost 2 games. That's a big thing for them. But like, it depends like how these teams prep. V3 obviously coming into the first 2 games, even though they had like that ridiculous win streak, were shut down.
I also think the whole argument, sorry to cut you off, Nymaera,
it's fine,
but I'm going to go on your point. I'm using it to piggyback. You learn more when you lose than when you win. This is in every game ever. I have taught people that this is far better to lose than win. It's a weird thing to say, but you lose a lot. You learn a lot more. I think V3 were probably very happy to probably lose 1 or 2 games because they've been on such a hot streak. Because they can go, okay, that's our faults. Let's figure out how to fix those. And then I think they fix them. I think that's it. I need to read.
Exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that.
Sorry,
V3
Nymaera.
adapted... No. Just in terms of like piggybacking.
I think I've frozen
losing
out here.
2 games compared to 3 games. That's not actually that much. The fact that V3 adapted mid-series.
You have, but it's in a very lovely
pulled
pose.
out,
Initialize. It's fine.
Okay, yes, yeah.
It's a very nice pose, actually.
In.
It's in very high quality as well.
I need to screenshot that, actually.
Frozen out. I don't know why. Can you still hear me, by the way?
Oh, yeah, you're beautiful. Yeah, no, because remember, we have a webcam separate.
Yeah.
Oh, you.
Oh, no. It drops out.
Oh, it's split me. Sorry, buddy.
Well, we'll yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think that V3 showing that they can adapt mid-series and actually, like, tangentially go off onto something which, like, yeah.
But in that same sense, at least for DFM, this is their first time proper losing with some consistency. You can almost, as I said, the Sengoku first loss was, they should hopefully have learned something from that first loss against Sengoku. The V3 loss, I've always given it a huge pinch of salt. Go listen to episode 7 of the podcast. 7, where I talk about it in great depth and basically say, no, Nymaera, you're wrong. And then, well, it seems like maybe I was right because DFM didn't learn anything from that loss.
Oh, no, I mean...
But that was a weird loss anyway, so pinch of salt,
that,
blah, blah, blah.
There was, like, a thought argument that was like, well, DFM already locked first, are they just kind of sandbagging a bit and trying something new?
They were trying some weird things there.
They were trying some weird things, but also their fundamentals look pretty shit in that game. So I think that V3's victory versus them was legit. I think that V3 have a style that can beat DFM. They're looking very good. And I think DFM should be afraid going into this. I think that V3 are looking forward to this and going, well, Sengoku are one-on-one versus this team. We are too. I think that DFM lost to a different style than V3 plays, so maybe the lessons they learn might not go as far, but the question is, how are they in regards to beating the V3
So then, Initialize, you pick DFM to win. What's your reason?
Yeah,
as we've kind of gone very much on problems that DFM have had and why we think V3 are good for it. What's DFM's focus?
Probably 3 things. I don't think Ace punishes Seros, like, at all. Outside of a LeBlanc, maybe, and I don't.
But he did good against Arya, who's the god of the mid lane. I'm sorry, that's not an argument I agree with.
Because he did really well in the team fights. I think he was okay in lane. He was like where he was getting advantage.
He didn't die to Silas's from Arya.
But Silas doesn't. But Arya doesn't. Yeah, his laning was okay. He still went behind in CS a lot.
His laning was not the strongest part. I think the thing about Ace,
his roaming and skirmish was good.
I think that Ace, if he picks which don't have to punish lanes, stuff like Rumble, which just kind of eventually wins team fights,
and Syndra,
he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Just don't play the Jace. I do agree though with Initialize. Don't play the Jace, and you might have a better chance against Cirrus. Fuck.
Yeah, and I don't think his Zoe's all that threatening either. We've been over that. I think Archer looked exploitable, and DFM will rub their hands about that. I also think that Paz looks great on Aatrox. He's got a good gangplank as well. Everything else I've been so on him.
His Renekton's good. He hasn't pulled that out yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, the gangplank was
strong. Yeah, but my point being that I think if he locks in gangplank versus Ebby and Steel, they will put him under the dumpster. Like, though that duo will be rubbing their hands in.
I don't 100%.
Gangplank is notorious for having that like tower dive issue. He has outplayed it before.
I see your point, but I respectfully disagree.
I think that if V3,
I totally see your point.
I think if V3, if Ebby doesn't get set or an Acton, I'm okay with the top lane matchup.
Yeah.
I don't think Ebby has been abusing as well on champions which aren't Renekton and set.
But I would also say I don't think Paz has been. But I don't think Paz has been particularly good. Yeah, but I don't think Paz has been all that effective outside of the Aatrox and the Gangplank. His Ornn's okay.
But he's been super effective on those two.
And yeah, but man only plays 4 champions. Like you can't. 50% of the time he's amazing.
I also think in the game where he played the Mordekaiser in that series, he was okay. Like,
yeah, but my point being okay will not be enough versus it.
That game was falling away, and he did is a plus point for me.
And I don't think DFM will get punished in the level 1 by V3.
Okay.
And I think Boogie gets a game.
Okay.
But I think the rest of it they won't be good enough in their lanes.
So, I want to just kind of get off of this topic. We've talked about DFM, V3, and also V3 versus CGA and DFM versus Sengoku. Let's go into Magical Christmas Land, only for a very short period of time. I didn't prep these guys for this, but I wanted to do this anyway, because I wanted to get very raw responses.
I'm going to start screaming.
can either DFM or V3 beat Sengoku?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, what from V3, very quick statement from both of you, will allow them to beat Sengoku?
I think that Blank, if he gets out jungled... I think that you can't disrupt Boogie's level 1 as well as you can Steel's. Boogie has better contingency plans.
Yeah, next
point. So I think that Sengoku got a lot of artificial advantages through that. I think that Reina has been better on the whole kind of roaming map play than Gang has for a lot of it.
For NT.
Gang. Okay.
Then Gang and NT. I think he's been the best roaming support right now.
Okay.
Has he done that much roaming?
And also I think that obviously we saw that V3 had an answer to Varus Victor, the static backline. They had the Rumble and all the other stuff, right? I think that DFM didn't have that. And yeah, so I think that they have tools. Obviously, I think Sengoku would be favored because they're just better. They're really good in lane and they're really good around early dragons and stuff. But V3 have ways to win.
Do we think that DFM on a repeat run can beat Sengoku?
Yeah,
I think they can. They have a very competent support staff.
So what do they need to do?
Sort the level 1s out. Make sure they know what they're doing versus Varus Victor.
Again, I think
that's the big one. Yeah,
that's it. If they can figure out if they start banning Victor, they win the game now. Is that what you're saying?
If they ban Victor instead of Orianna in those 2 games, 4 and 5, I'm pretty sure they win. Actually, Victor's so reliable, Yeah.
And I also think that if you're going to pick a Pantheon, like, you need to protect his level 1 because he doesn't farm that quickly, and he just needs to get his things and go find ganks. That's what he does. If you kind of stall his level 1, so he's then kind of coming into lane late and therefore not at the level advantage you would get level 3 to level 2 as a jungler, and then 2, you then have control over the river, so you know exactly where he is and he can't get anything done.
As well,
that's true.
Well, it did in one of the games. The other 2 Steel found his way around it.
Okay. Yeah, like in game 4 and 5, they attempted it anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean,
that's it. Yeah. I think if you're going to plan for Panther, you got to think about it.
Okay. So we've got 2 for V3, 1 for DFM. We're saying that these teams potentially have it. So, who's winning the LJL?
Oh shit.
I can go first. I will do the hostess with the mostest because I know that this is a thing known by most hosts that they know nothing and they just piggyback. Currently, I'm not doing a very good job of that, so I will try it again. Sengoku are making it to MSI.
I'm actually going to agree with you. I think that they've got a really tight hold on the meta right now. I think that DFM...
for my reason, it's just Yutori Moashi. Honestly, it's just that person. That man alone is just absurd.
I'm pretty sure he's like my front runner for MVP now.
I think he's the best player, and I think he's
been very good.
If you weren't so tied to
bad game,
if I would love to be able to put him with who would I love? Oh, I'd love to put him with Gang, honestly. And I think
with that before.
And I think that would be a bot lane that you could take to Worlds and would actually do pretty good.
Maybe Reina would be really fun with that. Reina's just better in the 2v2 than Gang, I think, right now.
I could see that, maybe. Although we're talking about the top 3 teams. We're talking about the top 3 teams here, so it's like,
I think on the right champions. Yeah, I think Gang's 2v2's. I think Gang's 2v2's been pretty good mostly.
NT's not been bad. Let's be real here.
Not towards the end of the split. He was
in
a bit
playoffs, absolutely not. In playoffs, absolutely not.
So 2 Sengoku wins.
I still think DFM.
You still think DFM? You're sticking to your guns.
He also protects his predictions.
Yeah. So I think the reason being
when it's a V3 Sengoku final and he's just like, oh no.
I mean, the thing is, but what I will say is I think it's a lot closer than I thought it would be, which is something. And
that's true.
And but even you said literally like a minute ago, Nymaera, if they'd banned the Victor, they win those last 2 games. So like, it's not even like.
But now they're against a different team now.
Yeah. But my plays really well. He's playing really well.
Yeah, but my point being, I think that one close series loss does not suddenly mean that DFM are like.
But I think V3
a bad team anymore.
No. But we're not.
And these guys went like what 12
we're
and
not
2.
We're not saying they're bad teams. We're just saying that potentially that they've fallen from the top spot, right?
Yeah.
I think that particularly because they lost a couple of games in the regular split and they're failing to learn a lot of lessons about the level 1, like you're saying.
That's true.
I remember, guys, coming into playoffs, we did the player rankings, and I said that Steel is exploitable. he's been when he's been unmolested at level 1, he's been really good. But he has been...
That's one way to put it.
But when he's been... Yeah, but like, if he has...
When he has a clean level 1, yeah, when he has a clean jungle start, he's absurd. He almost always gets Syros and Ebby a kill. Almost consistently. I'd love to watch it back and see what the actual ratios of that is.
We saw a number of times in the regular season that his level 4s were disrupted. Now in playoffs, it's the same thing. They had time to do this.
I mean, even in the playoffs, though, he got 80% plus first blood rate. So it's not like he's been playing badly, though.
Sure, I mean, what's he given up to do that?
That's fair. So my point being is, I think DFM basically assume they've got a month until this. They've got a lot of stuff to go over, and I think they will quite happily pick stuff up very quickly. I really trust their support.
But my counterpoint, because I was waiting for you to say that, they had a month for this one and they didn't do it.
Yeah, that's my problem.
They had a month.
They had a while.
Was it a month?
Yes, because we went 2 weeks.
They didn't do round 1, remember?
Yeah, they didn't do round 1.
True. It was like
and we also had 2 weeks after at the end of playoffs. Okay. They've had a month to prep for this.
It's been 3 weeks.
So,
have a look.
What the fuck did they do in that time?
Well, I think that's the problem, right? Is they're coming in because it would have been 10.5, wouldn't it? So it's a new patch. No one they hadn't seen anybody play on it really. And that's part of the deal. Is actually we have seen this. Particularly LCK Gold is notorious for this.
Yeah, so Sam, tiebreakers were on the 12th. Second round of playoffs were on the 28th.
So that's 2 and a bit weeks.
Yeah, that's like, yeah.
That's way more time. We normally have 3 weeks in the LJL in that space of time. So frankly, no.
So I will offer some context. But take the LCK Gauntlet as a really good example for this, where you see teams who are seated way higher up the gauntlet and have a different read on the meta coming into because no one's seen anything. Like you're hiding strats, and if you've just got the wrong read on the meta, you suddenly just end up like losing. And we've seen teams. So Rox Tigers were notorious for this, where they come into a finals. Having taken first seed in the regular season. Griffin. Yeah, exactly. And then they'd have it. They think they'd have all these drafts and like the meta solved and just have it wrong. And teams who've been playing and practicing going through earlier are a little bit more ready for it, or teams who just come in with a better read.
That's a backroom thing half the time.
Sure.
Partly the players, but also partly it's also a backroom thing.
Also, like in a best of 5, you have multiple chances to get that right, and like not adapting mid-series is.
Yeah, but that can also be. But it sometimes means that what you think you have an answer for something and you don't.
Well, running it back is a big mistake.
We've talked about. Well, we've run over that. Exactly. We went a bit circular with that, but like I agree. I think there was some. I think they stuck too hard to it. I think there are.
Yeah, I agree. But like, I think the thing is, DFM have got pretty clear things they can fix, and that's a good sign.
So do V3.
I think they are pretty fixable.
Yeah, I think V3 have found their chance. Again, I
think
and
Sengoku are already comfortable on this patch, I think we're saying. Yeah. And that's also, scary that they get a month. Over a month, actually. They get longer.
What's the likelihood that DFM run double exhaust?
Pretty high.
I actually
I think it's close to 0.
They love playing around mid lane TPs.
They do.
I honestly, I'm going to say, I'm willing to do something for the podcast if they don't, because I don't think they will. I actively don't think they will.
Oh, they did run double exhaust in game 3 versus the Karthus Nocturne. They did do it then.
I'm very confident they're probably not going to do it between the whole
I think time. I think that V3 really didn't know how to play against double exhaust. They sucked. Like, that was really not good. Their damage calculations were just way off. But also that was with the Ace Jace game as well. So I'm like,
yeah, that was
whatever.
Whatever.
Anyway, right.
Whatever. Yeah, let's go over to a very brief meta talk. So meta talk is being kind of fucked up, as Nymaera hinted to earlier, because we've kind of already covered everything. But Nymaera, why don't you cover the brief points and kind of give a quick TLDR?
Okay, so the main thing is, and pretty much a lot of stuff is going to tie into this one thing, which is the double exhaust kind of thing coming out, and just like
that's why I said
double exhaust on mid lane and support means that stuff which can go wrong will go wrong. It means that the exhaust gives you just such a bigger margin of error as the defensive team. So like say an Echo's diving into you, or like there's a Kalist jumping around, or they have like some ungodly fed mid laner or something, right? The double exhaust means that you can like not only exhaust, you can basically get 6 seconds of exhaust time, because there was a change on patch 10.4 where exhaust source went from 2.5 second cooldown to 3 second. It just means like your peel play is so ridiculous. What this means is that a lot of teams now have to divert to picking really reliable picks, and that's why I said in round 2 I really overused the word buzzword. But you want picks which can very, very quickly and securely get on top of a carry and then make sure that other people can pile into them. Stuff like Rek'Sai, which we saw from V3, right?
Renekton to that point?
Renekton is another one with that point-click stun. I hadn't necessarily clocked that in my head.
Ornn.
Aatrox, because it was banned so much. Ornn less so. I would say Aatrox is better because Ornn...
Because of his knock-up. Because it's...
Yeah.
We've been seeing a lot of Ornn in the LCK, LEC,
Ornn is just not as strong in lane. That's for me. Like, and yeah, Aatrox...
And he is nerfed.
Yeah, and he is nerfed as well. And so he sometimes loses you a bit of map pressure, whereas Aatrox and Renekton, they tend to... Well, Aatrox Renekton is a bit of a weird matchup, and we saw that Appaman get a bit dumpstered by Evie on that matchup. Really, that was pretty sad, actually. Like, as much as I like Appaman, like, that was mad, dude. Losing level 1 versus the like level 2 was like, yeah, it's pretty bad. But yeah, so a lot of this stuff kind of comes down to reliability, and that's not just in top lane. That's why we're seeing stuff like Varus and Aatrox, Varus and Victor too, right? Because
Varus is super consistent.
Varus, he's like a better version of Aphelios, better version of Ash, strong in lane, strong in team fights. He can go multiple lanes, be flexed around. He's really strong.
3 different builds.
Yeah, and Victor on the other side, like, he can run Spellbook and run Cleanse and all this other stuff. He's very happy to be the, he can kind of peel for himself better than other mid laners in a lot of ways, and he scales and is a reliable late game team fighter. Like, he gets like his perfect hex score. He has itemization options, which a lot of mid laners don't have. He can build towards like Banshees early, or go to Ludens or Lichbane or Void Staff and all this other stuff. Like, that's why we've seen a lot of these teams start to pick that up, and I prefer Victor to Orianna in that state as well, because you have better itemization, smoother power curve in a lot of ways, and less execution problems. So that's kind of my meta talk in all, if anyone wants to like...
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with everything you said. Initialize, any thoughts there?
I think I just add on with the exhaust as well. It's particularly versus a team like V3 who love their burst. Well, but who love their burst champions, right?
CGA
so
no longer here.
Yeah, so things like, Echo, who wants to go in and like blow someone up with the W passive and stuff, and just get those 3 autos and then get out. Or Jace wants
passive.
Is it not? It's on the W that's the execution damage. The W's got the execution damage.
Yeah, the basic attacks, but then the 3-hit passive is...
Sorry. There are 2 passive. I'm talking about the execution passive on the W, along with the regular. I should have been clear. And also things like with the Jace, right, where you want to, if you're kind of pairing that up and you just want to go hammer form and blow someone up, do it that way. Exhaust really screws up burst. And if V3, and like that's kind of what V3 have run in the past, and they did adapt to an extent. The Rumble, for example, was for that. But if you are going to want to think about things like burst champions, you do that, and double exhaust is just double irritating.
Yes, it is.
It's going to be an interesting how it moves forward. I'm somewhat of the opinion that this... Well, we've only got 2 more series to go on this. And it's definitely going to be proving very interesting to see how the end of 10.5 is. Because this is probably was not expected to be such a significant patch in the grand scale of things. It was obviously a very big patch in the grand scale of things. This was when they tried to introduce new junglers into the game.
Yeah.
Everything else. This was a very big patch. Oh, that's not planned out how Rito originally intended, I would say.
The only other jungler I think we could see is Poppy, and that's
maybe.
That's like
no, Poppy's OP in TFT. She stays in TFT, not in League. My God, TFT.
I think
maybe it's Zach.
Meh.
Yeah,
Zach's okay.
I'd rather see more Gragas again, please, before we get Zach
maybe.
again.
Rek'Sai's really strong. I think that Poppy's good versus Rek'Sai. Good versus
oh, is it?
Sin,
Okay. Okay, I didn't know that she was good against those.
Because you have the W stopped Ashes.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course, yeah. You just have to say fuck you.
What AD carries everyone playing? Kalista, really good against that too.
Kalista flexes as well, right?
Good versus it can be
good.
We could
be good versus Aatrox and Renekton too.
So listeners, a reason that you want to start joining our Discord, if you're not already on there, is because we have the pro stream thing. I got to find out Appaman was playing Kalista in the top lane.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think a lot of top laners are trying.
Yutori Mashi is also playing him. But we already know that one. But yeah, might be interesting to start watching that. But in all fairness, Meta Talk, we're gonna have an episode probably more on meta gaming and everything else in the near future before playoffs. So we probably will go far more in depth. This is our episode that's specifically about playoffs. We will briefly retouch this whole concept of round 3 playoffs and round 4 playoffs. or the week prior to it. So expect episode, so this is 9, 10, 11, 12. So episode 13 will probably be all about specific playoffs, if you are interested in that. It's time to go over to small talk. And we've got some pillow talk. And we've got
getting close, lads.
We got some lovely questions from our community. God damn it! I try and put it one way. Yeah. Let me just take this. I'm just going to do my last quick check to see if any other questions. I don't think there were any pings because I tried checking on my phone, but that was fucking up. No, we're good. We're good. Cool. So we have got some questions from our lovely members within our Discord who are going to be able, what we're going to answer. Obviously, last week's one, we've actually got a full topic from it. So if you ask us a question and you're like, oh, this might be a really big question, we're actually looking forward for that because sometimes that gives us content for you to have in the future, whether it be a video, as I think one of the questions were, and the other one is going to be a full podcast topic, probably next week or maybe the week after. So
I think there was one was like, if you wanted to make a super team out of stuff, I'm just like, okay, right.
That's like an hour-long minimum topic, easy for us. We stretch content to its absolute limit. So, our first question comes from Elfin. Thank you, Initia1ise, for the previous episode, so I can now pronounce names somewhat better. What is the likelihood of DFM being dethroned by Sengoku Gaming? Now, we've kind of talked about this.
We could rephrase that maybe, because we have talked about it in terms of like, we could give a percentage now. What would be really interesting is that, how much has that percentage changed before playoffs and now?
Okay.
So, obviously,
it's a big shift.
Yeah.
Huge.
So, I think beforehand, I would have said
80-20?
70-30 tops for 70-30 tops that DFM like.
Because what we're asking Sengoku to do is you need to repeat what you did in week 5. And you've already gone 1-on-1 against them. That's great, but you need to do it again and then do it 3 times. Now we know they can.
I have some severe issues about their draft now, like I said. We talked about this matchup. I think now, I would give it... I mean, I said... Wait, what did I say? Did I say...
You said 70-30.
I didn't say there was a score. I think it would be... I do think it might be another 3-2. But I think...
But first, DFM have to get there.
They do, and that's the problem. I actually don't think they're going to win this match versus V3. That's my problem.
You think V3 have got a good matchup into it, I'm guessing?
I think they do in a
lot
of ways.
I mean, he said 3-1 V3.
I need to like have a little bit more time to like.
You have several weeks until our full predictions have to be made. Remember?
I think so. I actually think that if you're talking about semifinals and stuff now, like I mean technically Sengoku, if they don't face them again, they technically already have dethroned.
No, they've done it. Yeah,
they've already done it, right?
They've done half the job.
Technically, it could be 100%.
Yeah.
I think.
Let the fanboy, let the DFM fanboy have a moment here. While you compose yourself.
I think there's a couple. So I think there's probably 2 things to think about. One is, do you think V3 have an advantage over DFM? There is an argument to say that V3 do. They've got a particular style of play. We've been over that. Second thing is, do we think DFM can adapt? And I think it would be foolish to assume they can't.
But then there's another thing as well, which is that if they
can we answer the poor listener's question?
The other thing is that there will be an extra series of games that Sengoku can see if they do win. That's the next.
Ooh. True.
Yeah, that is a thing, right? It depends how. So, and we're also assuming that DFM felt like they had to give away, whether they actually went into the series versus Sengoku game, which is a bit too confident, and felt they didn't have to reveal that much. And I wonder whether there's an element.
That's true.
So I think it's probably. I think I'd give a 65% to DFM.
That's not great. That's not great odds for 2 series.
No, because I think V3 and V3 and Sengoku Gaming are both good sides, and I think there is room that if DFM have a kind of misread on the meta again or on the series, there is room for a victory. And there are good enough players on those teams to get to people. I think the fanboy in me would probably say 70% DFM.
Sure. I mean, I want to just mention one very quick thing before I give my little impression. But I think that's interesting. At least, okay. So Initia1ise, you are going 65% because you're listening a little bit to your brain, not your full heart for DFM.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of assuming
that.
I mean, and I'm also I want to see how they perform versus V3 as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really important one.
If they turn up and stop, and that's absolutely a possibility because they could learn a lot from this.
Or they could get
DFM have done that before, or they could potentially just have learned nothing. But I doubt that.
Problem is, what's sad for us is we don't get a podcast in between it.
No.
That's the sucky thing. It's Sunday, Monday is the playoff. It is Sunday.
We'll have to do retrospective.
Sunday is when we have round 3. Finals is on the Monday. By the way, any listeners? Yes, we're doing it live. Obviously, fuck, we're not doing that live. After the huge success that our stream was doing V3 CGA, it was
thanks to anyone who listened in. Really
so cool. Insane. Thank you.
Best.
It was insane the response that came from you guys. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Sengoku. I actually think it's a very high likelihood.
Really?
I think it is now. Yeah.
But I'm using the whole reason that it's double series, right? Sengoku don't even have to potentially even play against DFM again to even get there. That's
a valid point.
And that's why, and I'm specifically using the wording that Elfin put here, which was the likelihood, and I think it's very likely. But it's a weird one. If it has to be by Sengoku, it does go down. Goes down to about 60% for me. I think it's a 60-40 matchup for Sengoku. Yeah, I think DFM could easily just smash him.
Because I will say, I'm not sure. V3, particularly in their first 2 games of last series, really didn't impress me. In a way that actually I think for the large points, Sengoku DFM was actually pretty close.
But do they learn? Is the question, right?
And I don't know, because V3 kind of play A style.
Yeah, but DFM looked pretty. But their game 1 was a shutout. Remember?
True.
Yeah, but my point being that was off a level 1, right? And that's a kind of different thing. Could, but I don't trust V3's level 1s. They're really bad.
But the thing is, if DFM adapt, improve, come into the V3 series, Sengoku get to look at that again, and we already saw that they prepared.
But they get a day. They get a day to prep.
And Blank has turned around games literally like within 15 minutes being a substitute.
Yeah, okay, no, that's fair.
Remember, Sengoku do have 2 members of SKT. So
they've also been Agent 92 and Agent 612s at points.
Sure, but right now they're playing really well right now on the whole.
So that's interesting. So 2 of us think it is more likely. One of the
I need to give a percentage.
One of us is less likely. Yeah, I'm 60-40.
I think between the 2 things, like saying it now before both of them go through, I'm actually going to say like 75%.
Okay.
Really? All right. That's a roll call.
Because I think that even if they beat DFM, V3, I think they have to give up something, which is then preparable.
Oh yeah, no, they cannot hide anything against V3 because if they try to hide and then try and stand back that for Sengoku, they might just lose, and then it's like, what was the point of you stand back?
Dude, DFM win playing standards.
One last thing. So basically, I think that V3 will not play the same comp for 3 games.
I don't think so. By the way,
so I think that if V3, even if they go like 0-3, they will show a different comp, which DFM will have to respond in a different way to, which is still extra information they have to give up.
It's going to be an interesting series. The second question that we were given by Ichishiki, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Ichishiki, yes, the one.
Who is your, I'm going to say personal, I'm going to add that word, favorite player from the LJL? So, I hope you've been thinking about this one, because I hadn't been thinking about this question. I'll be totally fucking...
I've thought about this for years, though.
Good. I'm glad that you guys have thought about it, because it's honestly, I kind of did all the show prep, and I was like, cool, I can just... We're going to talk about this. Forgot the question part. Added the question part into the document. Kind of forgot about them, and now I'm like, fuck, who's my favorite player? Initia1ise, as you have the most amount of tenure when it comes to viewing, being aware of the LJL, part of the community and everything. Who's your favorite player? Am I going to be surprised here? Really?
Years ago, it used to be Tussle and Ramone as a duo. I used to love that. I was super excited to watch those guys play. These days, it's probably Ebby. I just love watching the guy. His stream's so much good fun. His personality is really great. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's also just been one of those he's a tenured superstar. And that's something you can say. There's a difference between tenured players and tenured superstar.
Sure.
And I think he is just that. He's a brilliant, brilliant player.
You know what I get to do? I get to brown nose as fuck here. So
Go on.
There's a top 3, and I'll give my third, who is like.
Oh come on, we all know who you're picking.
Yeah.
So, obviously, there's Boogie. Really love that guy. One of the gods.
What is the mid laner gonna pick, Lexi? Have you got any idea?
And there's Arya. Arya's been so fun to watch. And then there's Corporal.
Hey!
No shit, favoritism comes through.
Oh my days! I wasn't expecting that. I see the bribery.
No. We didn't set out like all of the different like regulations for this. Corporal's like been interacting with us, chatting to us in a Discord. He's obviously like the whole Axis Cinderella story has been really fun to watch. It's been really hard. It's been really hard not to cast a biased Axis because it's like, oh, it's such a cool story.
Yeah, that V3's Axis series was kind of hard. I'll be honest. We can pull away the curtain. We were all fucking devastated when Axis won.
Oh, it was such a shame.
None of us were happy that Boogie won. It's the weirdest feeling in the world.
As soon as V3 drew them, I'm like, fuck. Okay, V3 are gonna like.
I was so sad because I thought we were gonna get a Rascal Jester Axis. I was like, oh, this could be a really cool series.
Yeah, and the thing is though, like,
just is so weird. Well, it could well have been anything going on.
There could have been anything, and things are like, yeah. I mean, like, if we're talking about on play alone, Arya throughout the whole split has just blown my mind. So sure, I guess in terms of play, but just like all extenuating circumstances, Corporal, you're a cool dude. Keep it up.
The LJL.
the Abbey. Right, Lexi, what's yours?
Fuck's sake. Okay.
He's gonna go honey, isn't he?
Fuck you! Fuck you! Man has not responded to me on Twitter, so no, fuck him. Frankly, fuck him. He doesn't respond to me on Twitter. I sent a tweet, tagged him in it, didn't get a response. Nah, does not get it. Does not get it. Actually, it's actually going to be Grendel.
Cool.
Grendel has been super active on Twitter. He seems like honestly, Grendel seems like the nicest guy in the LJL. It's weird to say that because there's a lot of really nice people that seem to be there.
And he has a waifu profile picture.
He does have a waifu of Elzra from Fairy Tail, so I know the reference. I appreciate it. She is number 1.
I too watched that up until like the Fairy Tail 0.
Yeah, I need to probably start going back and watching it again so I can be.
I never watched it.
It's good anime.
I famously watched 30 episodes back to back, 10 hours straight. I didn't realize what happened. It happened.
I did that with Bleach.
That's a lot.
Then I hit the bounce arc, and then I did it again, and then I asked my friend why did I do that, and he said, "Well, you're meant to skip the bounce arc." I'm like, "Well, no one fucking told me." Then I got sad. Yeah, no, Grendel, honestly, his Twitter interactions with the other pros is fucking adorable. I fucking love it. Like, always responding, super active. His stream, I watched the VOD, super, like, I don't know, just, I get the vibe that, just positive. Yeah, positivity.
Actually, I want to throw Yoshi's name into the mix as well there. He's also, like, I don't think he's a native Japanese speaker, so, like, some of the players are like, lol, maybe you should practice your Japanese a bit. But, like, he's super cute on Twitter. He's also in a Discord as well, although, like, obviously, I don't think he speaks so much English, so he doesn't respond as much, but also, thanks to you too.
Other notable mentions, Yutori Moashi, one of the top content producers currently for the LJL. Paz, I believe, is one of.
He talks to us on Twitter occasionally.
He does.
It's interesting that we're kind of going a lot of like players' personalities rather than necessarily their play patterns here, which I think is really interesting.
Well, I think that reason is happening. Initia1ise is because we are far more in depth within the community and just kind of trying to. Without sounding rude, but this is what we're doing. We're trying to force our way into the community.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Because here we are.
I mean, we are the English. This is what we do.
Yeah.
We're half around the world. We at best speak Google Translate Japanese.
Yes, yeah, I think Google Translate is.
So anyone who like really drops that on olive branch, it has been noticed. So thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, that's why Corporal, like, all the content, like, obviously, anyone that produces content immediately goes up 10 tiers. That's why Ebby is fucking god in my eyes. Boogie, start producing content, please. Even if it's all in Korean, don't care. I want content, and I want it now. Paz is really good for content. There is one very specific player. Please fill the air for me right now while I go through my own personal thing.
I mean, I will also say, like, in terms of play, I've always rated Blank as well. I think he's just such a, like, he's been such an interesting
Hachimecha. is the biggest content producer, and he literally does how to jungle stuff, and he does how to do. Yeah, he does how to do it. He does jungle test clears on random champions. Like he did 1 week ago. He released 5 videos doing Wukong jungle test clears, Shen, Morgana, Teemo, and Yorick. Legit,
Morgana's got a good test clear.
Man just does like this random content, and it's just like, oh, this is actually kind of cool just to see someone doing it at least. Fuck you.
There we go.
He's put his T1 shirt out.
Who may rank period.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I remember. My favorite.
This is why we're knowing this so good.
I mean, like, my favorite League of Legends moment ever was that Rocks semi-finals against SKT.
Oh, it was so cool.
I've been an SKT fan since I played League, and that was like early season 4.
Season 4 when they were bad.
I got to see like the All-Star when they were really cool, and I support them through the really bad season 4.
Well, at least your team get to keep playing in Worlds. My favorite team don't do it, and the other, my second favorite team, sadly they won Worlds and then never showed up again because their star mid laner kind of had to retire.
TPA.
Yeah, I loved TPA. I loved them to bits.
They were such a good story.
And then, hopefully the LJL can do a repeat of what TPA did, and then I'll be like,
that would be so cool. Like if they could, if they could get to groups and like pull out, they don't even have to win.
Also, our content. No, if they win Worlds, our content becomes the best, the hottest thing in the world.
But like, let's be honest, EU hasn't won Worlds yet.
Should have won.
No, but I mean, yeah, whatever. I mean, like, the competition at Worlds is so ridiculous.
Yeah,
so ridiculous.
You got to beat China, Korea, EU.
And also G2's there, C9 and no slouch either.
Well, C9, weird. I'm interested in doing a whole topic about this, about international talent, comparing it to LJL. So I don't want us to go too in depth in this, by the way.
I mean, like
the question asked was favorite LJL players. So
so I think off play, people like Boogie, Aria, Ebby obviously come up. Blank's a lot of fun. Like there are Hachimechi's a lot of fun in terms of like. On a personal level, we've got some of our favourites as a community because they've interacted with them, we see their personalities. Awesome bloke, great support player, lots to like.
And also like I've also really liked Gadiadu this split as well.
Sure.
I think he's been a really good player too, you know, and he's also been key to that Axe's story.
Very true, very true.
And Hoglet.
So then maybe that
has a big cat.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting moving forward. I assume probably my favourite player might switch. I'm particularly high on Grendel because I've seen them a lot on Twitter recently, so that helps. That definitely helps for me. But I mean, definitely there have been times where like Corporal is by far my favorite player. Boogie as well. I'm always high on the jungle man. Yeah, I think to be honest, I think the LJL for non a major but not emerging region, because the LJL is definitely caught in the most awkward spot, I think.
Well, it's places like Latin America.
Turkey. They're called emerging regions.
They're called emerging, but they're not.
But we've been around for a while now, I think. Because actually a lot of them have, right?
Yeah, they
LCL's the same. So the Russian league.
Oceania as well,
these leagues actually are relatively established now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good argument that we're in the same place as fucking NA now.
I was actually about to say that.
At me.
No,
I think DFM Sengoku V3 would have a shot at the early rounds of playoffs at least.
I genuinely, I mean, we've seen the VCS teams do some wonders on like MSI World Stage. Albus Nox Lena from LCL.
Oh yeah.
I think that like the right team in the right place could take some heads. You know, I think that genuinely V3 could be a VCS team. DFM
they have the playstyle for it.
Yeah, and also like DFM and Sengoku would be really good. I think they'd do well in NA actually because they're really good at just like controlling the game around objectives.
I think DFM would probably be top 3.
Maybe not top. Oh, actually no. NA is not particularly strong outside C9. Right?
No, exactly.
So, yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
I think DFM. Oh my god! Imagine if you put V3, Sengoku, and DFM in NA. They probably go. Don't. I'm not saying they take C9 down. And I'm not saying they always beat 100 Thieves and Evil Genius. But granted, TSM couldn't fucking close anything out. I'm sorry. One job One job, lads. You just had to close it. You were guaranteed the higher bracket. You just...
I've got some flashcards. Hang on, I've got some flashcards for you.
All right.
So I've got some flashwords for you. Azir.
Fuck
How's that sound to you right now?
Fuck you.
How does the word pentakill sound to you?
Fuck off. Just close a fucking game. You get a pentakill on arguably the best mid laner in the region, and you can't close it. There are so many problems in that team.
Maylife,
you know
that's what
that
it is.
screams to me? The truly counter logic.
Oh, well, at least I'm not there. Well, to be honest, at least I'm not Team Liquid. At least
that's been pretty rough.
That would be way worse if I was a Liquid flan. Fuck.
Yeah, they've been a bit of a wet blanket.
I have a couple of friends who are very much double F fans, and they're in hiding right now.
Bench the. He's not even worthy of the region anymore. He's not even.
Okay. I'm not gonna.
I'm fucking.
Right,
I'm obviously trolling here. He's clearly far better than like most.
Ship it.
What?
Clip that shit. Yeah.
Clip it. Fuck it. I don't care.
No, I mean like
viral content.
Sure. Okay.
He's still a very good player.
Get the hate coming in.
Thank you for your questions as we round out all of that stuff, by the way, people, because we've kind of gone away from them now. But Alphen and Shiki, both of your second questions for our podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's
thank
true.
You very much for those.
It's crazy. But with that all said, we did. Okay, yeah, we have not gone over the time that I said we should not go over, so we've actually kept this somewhat in check.
I quote from Lexi: "If we go over 2.5 hours, you guys are talking some mad shit."
We have not gone over that, so we have not. We've not gone over the complete mad.
The best thing is we've done both.
We've somehow done both, and we've kept it to less than 2 hours 20. So I'm pretty happy with that.
That's pretty good. Take that.
With that all said, first things first. Thank you everyone for listening and or watching. But more importantly, all of you stay out there, stay safe, do self-isolation, quarantine, do whatever you need to do. Stay safe, look after your parents, your friends, your family, and most importantly, obviously, yourself. This is content at the end of the day. You guys can listen to this. You can do this at any time. More importantly is looking after everybody and your individuals. We're all practicing self-quarantining as much as we can. So
I've been outside once in like the last 10 days.
Yeah, as have I. So and I went to get like a bunch of groceries, and now I'm like, I
got some more milk.
And now I'm like, maybe I should just order for the everything for the next month. Potentially, I might have to just lock down for a month, which is weird to say, but is what it is. This podcast obviously does come out on every major streaming platform. So if you are interested, we're on Spotify and all this other things. Thank you for also the influx of listeners on some of our streaming platforms. Clearly my spiel is somewhat working, or maybe people are just finding it and the algorithm's working. I'm of the opinion the algorithm's just working, but we'll find.
It's our intense sex appeal.
That's exactly it.
Yes.
You seeing this beard? This is chick magnet.
Well, I mean, is that the?
Hey, probably does need to go in fairness.
I mean, no. You should keep growing it until we get out of quarantine.
How many years has it been?
Yeah, literally, you could do that. You could be like,
what year is it?
Get a huge Gandalf cloak and just go, how long has it been?
I'm almost tempted.
It's been almost 3,000 years, Floette.
Maybe what we do is we grow it till the first round till round 3.
Ooh.
And then I'll shave it off for the final match. I was going to say DFM Sengoku, but like I'm.
Is that confident?
You can't spoil the script. You can't. Spoil the script.
Fuck. That's why we both said V3. Shit. Remember, all of these views are our own, and we have no affiliation with Riot Games or Riot Japan, as we talk all about Riot Japan. So specifically forward, obviously it's been a huge amount of fun. Thank you so much. Everything we do say here is obviously take it with a grain of salt. We're just having fun. Obviously, if we're swearing and we're just kind of going on,
we're learning as we go along.
Yeah, and we're doing hour-long tangents. By all means, all feedback regarding to the podcast is greatly appreciated. Best way of doing that is via our Twitter or via our Discord. Obviously, you can DM us individually for any form of feedback. Greatly appreciated. In the grand scale of things, though, this has been the LJL Officially Unofficial Podcast. It's been episode 9. Episode 10 puts us into that double digits for the first time, and it's going to be a big deal. But I can't wait to get there. They just go up so fast. But with that that all said, thank you so much for watching. And from myself, Nymaera, and Initia1ise, have a lovely rest of your day.
Hi.